Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the continuation of the Next Gen Racing Front-Wheel Drive Friday series, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. This series, of course, being focused all around front-wheel drive machinery and the need to master the art of balancing understeer with power application. And well, what better machine to bring it all to life than the Clios in this Clio Cup? With 8 rounds of racing, we charge into the second half of the season with round 5 of 8, and we're here in Germany at the legendary Motorsport Arena Ochersleben, legendary for a number of reasons, including the race action on its tarmac and the remarks made about certain drivers on this circuit, and indeed the way the circuit has been described over the years as being a very challenging circuit for its technical flow, but also its original open and hairpin, which was a right-angled left-hander, now a much more sweeping and gradual left-hander into turn number 2. But indeed, John Clear's words echo throughout the chambers of motorsport in history, and whilst they're not safe for work and we're not allowed to talk about them with regards to the circuit, let's tell you, this is a circuit like no other when it comes to cup racing, in the fact that over its corners, our drivers will need to master the art of balancing their speed alongside the understeer of the machine in order to come out on top, and with that demand of precision, it's all going to come down to fine margins and who can come away the victor come the end of each and every race. Of course, as you join us for this broadcast, which is being brought to you live via free media platforms for your viewing pleasure, firstly you may be tuned in via one of the 2 official Next Gen Racing platforms, included on YouTube at youtube.com and search for Next Gen Racing. Alternatively on facebook.com, where you can go to facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing and tune in there. And hello to you whether you're on YouTube, alternatively Facebook, but we must also say hello to those of you on Twitch. And these you may be tuning in via twitch.tv/TX141. And who is TX141? I hear you ask. Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name is TX141 or Paul Walsh or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I will bring you all your racing action today and indeed over the entirety of the series. Now, as we get ready to go racing, of course, this broadcast is live, but the racing action itself is post-round. That means the racing action you are seeing is not currently happening live. It actually occurred as of yesterday evening on Friday the 12th of May 2023, but a day later, of course, it is Saturday the 13th of May today, and we're bringing you all the racing actions as if it were live. What does that mean in terms of technical aspects? Well, it means that we, as the host and commentator, do not know what happens over each of the race sessions, albeit we do have the limitation of not being able to bring you replays of action we potentially miss, but otherwise it's going to be as close as possible to the raw live experience for those of you tuning in at home. And of course, if you are tuning in and do know the outcome of the race, or indeed the qualifying session, we do ask that you avoid any potential spoilers in any of our free chats. But in terms of our schedule for tonight, times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinated Time +1 at UTC at +1. We can see in just under 12 minutes time, we'll be going into the qualifying session at 8:15, 15 minutes in duration. And this one is going to be highly pivotal in the fact that our drivers will need to get themselves as high up the order as possible, because overtaking is definitely going to be a challenge. After that, we'll make our way to the grid for the first race of the day. All 3 of our races being sprint races of 17 laps, or approximately 20 minutes in duration without a safety car, and that'll be race number 1 kicking off at 8:30 this evening, where our drivers will go full attack onto the circuit for the first time in anger under those race conditions. After which we'll take a brief breather before returning for the build-up to race number 2 at approximately 9 o'clock, another 17-lap race, and then we bring it all to a close with race number 3 of 3 at 9:30 this evening, another 17 laps, and then we'll have the build-up and more for you at 9:30. But as we get set to go back into the racing action, of course, let's give you a reminder of the season thus far and what you can look forward to in the second half of the season. Well, as we can see here, we started off all the way back on the 7th of April at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit. It may be short, it may be tight, it may be compact, but the key thing is in the United Kingdom, in the county of Kent, we got to see the Front Wheel Drive Friday series get off to an absolutely brilliant start with battling up and down the field and indeed some moments of contention. After that, our drivers made the way from the UK to the US of A, and arguably the circuit which I would liken to the American version of Brands Hatch, and of course it was the Laguna Seca Raceway, or in full the WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca we should say, on the 14th of April. Of course, recently changed, and depending on your opinion, you may consider it controversial in the fact that the runoff areas have been extended beyond the curbs, but for our drivers there, it's all about trying to avoid running off the curbs and falling into the grass or the sand, and those that did come away with a major score. Now on the 21st of April for round number 3, we made our way to Alton Park, and what Cup Series would not be complete without a visit to the legendary Alton Park circuit in the United Kingdom, and there on the island layout, many of our drivers found themselves outbreaking themselves into the hairpin, locking up the brakes and losing places, but those who did not and found a way to keep it on the track and rather fall into the grass, well, they came away with some major points. And in round 4, last time out, of course, on the 28th of April, We made our way back to the United States of America for the Lime Rock Park circuit. And there, with it all being about the flow around the circuit, a classic in the state of Connecticut, many of our drivers there found themselves in some intriguing slipstream battles, and it was almost as if it was Renault Clio's meet NASCAR, albeit there with a bit more corners than your standard NASCAR oval, but the point being, our drivers all need to stay as close as possible and battle hard into the 1 or 2 braking zones available. Of course, we now return from our mid-season break week, and today, of course, is the Motorsport Arena Ochersleben round of round number 5, and then after today, we'll be making our way to Australia for the Oran Park circuit on the 19th of May. In round 6, we go to the circuit that's no longer with us. Of course, it's been turned into a housing estate in recent years, but still we're going to commemorate the wonderful Oran Park circuit, which is all about flow. Indeed, the task of being brave on the brakes there on the 19th of May, and then the penultimate round of the season on the 26th of May, we make our way back to the United Kingdom for the Fast and Furious Silverstone circuit, indeed the home of British motorsport, before bringing it all to a close at Watkins Glen International on the 2nd of June. And what we said earlier about Lime Rock Park Classic being the equivalent of Clio Cup meets NASCAR, and it could be very similar with regards to Watkins Glen, where the circuit's heavily camber corners, both on and off camber, showing that positive and negative, and will for our drivers, they'll be looking to end their championship campaign on the ultimate positive, which is championship victory. But that's on the 2nd of June, and we still have 4 rounds of racing to go, starting off with tonight, of course. But going into tonight, after 4 rounds of racing, how do the championships tables stack up? And that's the question we're going to answer for you now. We start off with the overall championship, of course, and we can see here that Adam Delmont, the pro, has now moved into the overall lead by a margin of 47 points over Chris Daines. Chris Daines unable to attend the remainder of the season due to personal circumstances, and we do wish him all the best, of course, and we're going to miss him on circuit, but it does open up the door to Adam Delmont to really try and charge away with proceedings. But as you can see there in P3, Lee Holmes now has the gargantuan task of trying to close the gap to Adam Delmont, and boy, he's got a long way to go, and if he does well today, he'll start to kick about, bringing down that 79-point deficit. Shane Piggott in P4, 140 points, only ahead of the prime of Ian Manners based on result countback, and that battle for P4, or effective P3, as the season comes towards its natural conclusion, is only going to get tighter. And Mikey Pollard, the other DCW racing driver alongside Ian Manners, only a point off, and Pollard really has been the driver to beat time and time again over the last couple rounds, given the pace he's brought to each and every race. Jamie Dory in P7, 104 points, well clear of Reece Saunders in P8, with Phil McDougall only a point behind the pro driver of Saunders, and the battle between them is starting to intensify. And then we have Michael Lees complete in the top 10. Best of the rest, 3 points behind, but ahead of Gavin Garner based on result countback. It's Matthew Addy within Gavin Garner P12 and Adam McNally a third point behind him P13. And then we do have Mark Sykes and Lee Horn P14, P15, both on 57 points, with always a 16-point advantage over Craig Jones. And it's Tim Ritton, Mark Cadwell, Daniel Fritz and Lewis Benny who complete your top 20. Looking outside the top 20, meanwhile, going for the 10 points of Lewis Benny, we can see that Glenn Humberstone and Dan Skinner both on 10 points, but behind based on result countback. And their third point behind it's Roger Morton with Darren Ills on 8 points, and then yet to score points in the championship, Thomas Delaney, Steve Howe, Simon Robson, Mark Arrowsmith, Josh Brown, John Higgins Jr. and Carl Jackalette. But as we come from our overall classification to our individual class standings, we start off with the pros, of course, and here the complexion, again, quite similar, albeit you'll notice a key difference in terms of who's in P3. Adam Delmont leads the way on 255 points. He's 40 clear of Chris Daines, but the real fact here, of course, with Chris Daines' absence is the fact that Shane Piggott in P3 at 194 points found himself in the pursuit of Adam Delmont, but at the same time, he's got to be aware of the fact that Lee Holmes is closing and closing fast. It's 21 points between the two drivers who are effectively P2 at this point in the championship, and with Jamie Dory in P5 on 132 points, it looks as though right now Adam Delmont has it all to task to try and continue to break away, and it's going to be Shane Piggott and Lee Holmes who need to try and bring that gap down and really hurry to do so, because one of them's got to get the upper hand on the other, otherwise they'll be battling for P2 come the end of the championship. Jamie Dory in 132 points. Finds himself in a bit of no man's land. He wants to break away from Reece Saunders, but he's got a long way to hunt down the rest of the field above him. And then we do have Reece Saunders 119, just the best part of 20 points over. We've had 24 points clear of Adam McNally. We've got a P8 on 82 points, and a sizable gap to Glenn Humberstone with John Higgins Jr. yet to score any points. We then come to the prime class, and it's Ian Manners who leads the way, and Will Manners right now holds the lead. But notice there, the gap between him and teammate Mikey Pollard for DCW Racing, it is coming down, and it is coming down fast. Now only standing at 37 points. That delta could shrink even further today if results go the right way for Pollard, but of course Manners will be looking to make sure they go his way instead. Phil McDougall in P3 on 144 points, only one clear of Mark Sykes. The rivalry for P3 continues to grow with the fact that both drivers are having good showings last time out at Lime Rock Park and looking to continue that momentum, and Matthew Addy only a further point behind. It's a battle for P3 that's going to go down to the wire, and let's not count out the likes of Lee Horn and Michael Lees who are well within reach. Craig Jones in P8 on 106 points. He's well clear of Mark Cannibal by 28 points, and a third point behind is Tim Rutten, who's looking to try and stay inside the top 10, with an advantage of only 16 points to Darren Ills, who's best the rest in P11. Tim Rutten's going to have his work cut out for him, that's for certain. Daniel Fritz in P12 ahead of Roger Morton, with Dan Skinner and Lewis Benny completing your top 15. And then we have 6 points to Mark Harris-Smith and 4 to Simon Robson, with Thomas Delaney, Josh Brown and Steve Howe completed the top 20 and yet to score any points, and that's how your Prime class stands. But as we come from our championship standings then, ladies and gentlemen, to our circuit for today, where is none other than the B layout of that Motorsport Arena Ochersleben, located near the town of Oschersleben in the Burda region of the German state of Saxony-Anhalt. This circuit, as you can see from the circuit map provided to us by iRacing.com, thanks to them, of course, for their wonderful simulator and the brilliant circuit maps that come with it. This is a cut-down version of the overall Grand Prix circuit, but it retains the key elements of the Grand Prix circuit in the fact this circuit is all about flow and managing understeer. For as our drivers make the way down the extended start-finish straight towards turn number 1, it's the flying left-hander into the right-hander of Hotel Corner, where it's all about positioning the car well and getting onto the brakes of turn number 2, and then making the late apex. Exiting turn number 2, they then make the short run up towards Hasserode Corner at turn number 3. It's going to be a slightly cambered hairpin corner at turn 3, before very quickly going onto the brakes for turn number 4, the reverse hairpin, which sees our drivers come back on themselves through Shell Curve and Ammon Curve at turns 5 and 6. There it's the right into left. It'll feel like a little bit of a chicane, albeit there's quite an extended sequence between the two medium speed corners, and it's the medium speed sweep at a bow curve at turn number 7, before coming into Zeppelin Curve at turn number 8 to complete the lap and start it all over again. It's going to be a short lap, with the lap times anticipated to be in the region of approximately what will be just shy of 1 minute 10 for the fastest drivers. But indeed, for the Oschersleben B course, it is one which is not going to be out of its own tension, and the driver is able to keep it on the black stuff and make sure to carry the flow is the one who's going to come out on top. There's no question about it. But let's give you a quick reminder of the rules before we go racing. And we can see that this is a fixed setup series where drivers are provided a setup ahead of each round that they must use in every race. In terms of the driver classes, these are finalised as of round 3. They will only be adjusted by exception and not by the norm now. Indeed, any newcomers will typically be placed in the higher classes unless they have previously been placed into a class in another next-gen series, which will be used as their reference class. Sprint race-wise, the race 1 grid shall be set based on the results of qualifying. The race 2 grid shall be set based on the results of race 1. So the winner of race 1 starts on pole for race 2, and we work our way down the finishing positions to set the grid for race number 2. And the race 3 grid shall be our partial reverse grid based on the results of the race 2 finishing positions, with the top half of the grid being reversed. And what that means is if we do have a total of 16 drives, which we do today, we will see the top 8 reversed, with the first place finisher starting P8 on the grid for race number 3, and we work our way down to the 8th place finisher in race number 2. They will start on pole for race number 3, and then the 9th place finisher and downwards will start where they finished in race number 2 on the grid for race 3. And we will see that our drivers have 2 fast repairs available in each race, and each race shall conclude after either the allotted lap amount or 30 minutes. We expect the 17 laps to transpire first, but indeed if we have multiple safety cars in a given race, it may go the full duration to 30 minutes of racing. That's all for rules, regulation, everything in between. I know what you're all here for. You're here for the racing. And as we look back to our pictures here of our drivers making their way on and around, we do see Mikey Pollard parked up in the pit lane. And well, of course, Pollard, the big name of the Prime class, and really coming through rapidly. But as he gets ready to go, and meanwhile, his fellow DCW Racing teammate of Ian Manners, current Prime Championship leader, just flying his way on through and into turn up was then number 4. And well, for Manners, it's all about trying to manage that pressure of being out front and making sure not to fall back into the clutches of Pollard. But I think this gradual rise for Pollard is definitely now being felt for Manners as he looks to try and stay one step ahead today. But it's not just about, of course, our primes. We've also got plenty of pros out there, including Shane Piggott, the fastest man in this practice session, with the Ace of Spades racing driver going a bit wide there, coming through turn number 6, and into 7 he goes. But as he comes through the right hand and getting himself all composed, indeed 1.1 seconds faster than everybody else so far. And I do wonder if there's a little bit of a track limit infringement, which of course our time towel's not able to pick up. But indeed that is a sizable gap there for Shane Piggott. If he's done that under his own impetus, well, very nicely done from him, as we've got a minute to go before we go into qualifying. But we also do have 5 new drivers on the grid for today, and well, you're going to see 3 of them all share the same surname, and they are the Doble brothers of Joseph Doble, Mikey Doble, and of course Isaac Doble, with both Joseph and Mikey being in the Pro class and Isaac Doble being in the Prime class. And we'll welcome to them for Doble Sim Racing. We also do have on the grid the newcomer of Martin Tilling from Tiki Sim Sport, as the number 2 driver makes his way into turn at number 4 there, with a little bit of a lock-up. And we're doing Martin Tilling, a very fast driver. He'll be joining us in the Pro class and looking to absolutely deliver on his debut. And we also do have the newcomer of what is Alex Meredith, highly popular driver in the NXTGEN series, of course, and he joins from Capital E Motorsports in the number 19 in the Prime class. We'll see more of them in qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of qualifying. We're about to transition into the qualified session, and we are just going to be right back as we transition into the session, making sure not to have any of the qualifying time spoiled for any of us as we make our way in. We'll be back in approximately 1 minute's time. And we immediately return less than a minute, indeed 30 seconds there, and it is now time for qualifying, ladies and gentlemen, as our drivers make their way out of the pit lane and onto circuit as rapidly as possible. And the first driver out is Jamie Dory as he comes out that incredibly tight pit lane exit there, and as he makes way through turn number 2 on the wide line, of course, to give space. Well, just to explain for the uninitiated why we do have to take that brief pause between the practice session and qualifying to avoid spoiling any qualifying times, there has been the occasional technical bug with the iRacing replay files that we do use, and this is a standard bug. It's not just common to our series. Indeed, we see it across the board in other series, whereby when we transition from practice to qualifying, sometimes all the final qualifying times will appear on that timing tower on the top left-hand side of your screen. Of course, we don't want to see those. We don't want it spoiled in terms of qualifying. We want to see the laps as they come in and see who fights the pole at the very end, and that's why we do have to use that as a little bit of a safety precaution for all the broadcast. But as Jamie Dory clatters his way through turns 5 and 6, getting himself set there in the number 13, and will we say hello to a good number of you in the Facebook chat in particular, including Katie Eames, who's doing well. And good evening to you, Katie. As always, it's always great to see you tune in. We also say hello there to Mark Sykes from the Facebook chat, who says hi, Paul, and also my daughter Alina is watching as well. And good evening to you, Mark, and good evening to Alina. Hope you're both doing well, and it's great to hear that father and daughter are tuning in. As meanwhile, Joseph Doe will make his way across the timeline there, and we'll get set to go on to his opening lap. And we also say hello in the YouTube chat to Elwin Elvit 80 Sykes there, wishing the drivers good luck and good evening to you, Elwin. It's always great to see you tuning in, and I hope you're doing well on this fine Saturday evening. Now, what do our drivers need to do in order to be able to achieve a good qualifying lap around here? Well, it's all about flow at Oschersleben. Indeed, as the corners make the way on around, with there only being one extended straight around this circuit, you need to take every mile an hour you can from corner to corner. Now, it sounds obvious. Every circuit's technically about this, but with the fact you have very little margin for error, and with the severe number of hairpins and corners which see you come back on yourself, it's all about the extra mile an hour or two you can carry out to the next corner on those short straight runs, which makes the difference in the lap time. It will be tenths, or indeed hundredths, that will be the difference between pole and second place, and we reckon, unless somebody can absolutely barrage their way through the qualifying session and leave everybody else in the dust. But as they make their way through the sweepers such as turns 5, 6 and 7, as we just seen Joe Zadol complete turn number 7 there, it's all about being able to have that confidence to carry the speed. So there's a lot of technical ability on display here, and that's why Oschersleben is considered to be one of those circuits, whilst it's not featured on every series calendar in the real world and the virtual world, those series that do feature it really push the drivers to demonstrate their technical nuances in driving the car of choice. And here, of course, it is the 5th generation Renault Clio Cup car, and what this car lacks in top speed, it makes up for in manoeuvrability and indeed its ability to change direction like no other. As we see Jamie Dory make his way out to 2 and up towards 3. And meanwhile, we look to Alex Meredith as he comes through there, and we're running in NXTGEN at racing colours, but of course racing for Capital E Motorsport in other series as well, and that's what team we've got him listed down as today, as he comes through turn number 4 there. The number 19 driver getting himself all comfortably set as he comes out to turn number 4 and up towards 5. And of course, the full GP lap, we'll see our drivers go a long way further up the road. Indeed, so some much more technical sequences of corners, including the corners they come back onto, including the curves here at turns 5 and 6. We're still with it, focused on the GP circuit. We're staying up with the B course, and as we do see Meredith making his way through turn 7 into the brains over turn number 8. Of course, on the pit entry line there, you want to use as much width as possible coming through the right-hander. Well, let's see what Meredith does this time as he comes to the end of his first flying lap. And well, we've got Mark Sykes and Mikey Pollard on out laps. They've decided to take a bit of a slower start to this qualifying session. Meredith goes P10 on a 1:12.364, and well, currently that is 2.1 seconds off of the pole lap set by Shane Piggott, but we expect those times to tumble given the fact we did see 8 in the qualifying session. About 9 in the qualifying session, I should say, in the practice session in the build-up, and already Lee Holmes going faster into a 109.752, and that's half a second clear of everybody else. The first driver to hit the 9s, and as he makes his way through turn number 2, a lock up there for with Jamie Dory, and will meanwhile Holmes just keeping it nice and smooth as he comes through 2 and up towards turn 3, coming out of Hotel Corner and now into the next braking zone. And well, with that, of course, Lee Holmes no stranger to smoothness in driving these cars. Indeed, you have to go all the way back to Brands Hatch and Alton Park, where we really really saw him deliver some absolutely beautiful laps at the helm of the car. Not always the fastest man out there, but smooth driving means that you are going to be one of the quickest. Albeit a brief lock up there coming into turn number 4, and he won't want to do that again in a hurry. As he comes up towards turn number 5. Meanwhile, we do look to the CXR Project Black driver of Phil McDougall as he comes on out, and of course the man in the Pro class who is never going to be accounted for in terms of his ability to be out of the running. If he qualifies low, he finds his way through the field in the race, and when he has a good qualifying session, he's right up there, and right now powering his way up towards turn number 7 in the 83 car, and will very shortly be jumping on board with him for a flying lap around the Oschersleben B course as he comes through the final corner on turn number 8 and lets the car roll out wide. And let's jump on board then and take you around for a lap of the Oschersleben circuit. He's making his way across the timeline into 4th gear, and in fact I believe he might be backing the car off there, so we've called him at the worst possible time. This does happen of course every so often, so we won't be getting a lap with Phil McDougall as he does decide to back it off. We'll try to catch another one of our drivers as they make their way on around, but they're deciding to cool down on what was a lap, a 110.76. His best is a 110.57, but staying P7 at the moment as Daniel Fritz moves to P8 down to 110.668, and while other drivers heading towards the end of the laps currently, well, Mark Sykes coming towards the end of his first flying lap for NXTGEN Racing, and it's the 666 driver, number of the devil there, and he's a devil in the detail, there's no doubt about it, as he heads to the line. Of course, Mark Sykes, the founder and owner of Mike Sykes Designs, the livery manufacturer, and if you're looking for some of the very best liveries that you can see in iRacing, indeed in the set course of competition, then you do want to get in touch with Mark Sykes. But he makes his way down towards turn number 1, his best lap so far, 1:11.262. He's got plenty more time to try and improve upon that, but that puts him P14 on 1.5 seconds over the pole lap overall. And meanwhile, Brian Poll goes to Mikey Pollard in P2, and with a gap between the two there, 1.1 seconds. So Pollard not quite on the pace, Holmes, interestingly, albeit right now starting to put himself clear of the rest of the Pro field. So I think Pollard may find himself squeezing in amongst a good number of pros on the front 2 rows of the grid, but of course we still have just over the first half of the qualifying session to go, and in the second half as well, and our drivers, they'll be pushing to the utmost all the way to the very end. But meanwhile, Michael Leaf's heading across the timeline. NXTGEN Racing driving onto a lap, moves to P11 there, getting ahead of Ian Maz, 110.732. Manners on an out lap at the moment, Ian P12, and Ian Maz having a slow start to this qualifying session, as meanwhile Daniel Fritz coming across the timeline does not improve this time around, but the Whiskey Runners Racing driver looking good at this point. He's currently P4 in the Brown class, P9 overall, and well, Fritz has been rising in the midfield over the course of the season. He started towards the back of Brands Hatch, so you may recall, didn't quite hook it up at Brands Hatch compared to I think what he felt he had, but as time has gone on, he really has started to bring together some great qualifying sessions, and also on top of that, some strong race performances, and I wouldn't be surprised there if he's targeting another podium today as he makes way out to turn number 4, and Jamie Dory moves up to P8 there off camera, or 110.611, but immediately put back to P9 with Joseph Doble going P6, and well, right now we are waiting to see when Mikey Doble maybe join our drivers. In fact, Mikey Doble, as soon as I say that, makes his way into the pit lane, so he's joined late midway through the qualifying session, but you can imagine the senior of the 3 brothers, well, of course, the driver much known now for his participation in British Touring Car as a 2023, we can imagine that Mikey will be out there on circuit shortly to support his brothers, and therefore his teammates at Doble Sim Racing, as meanwhile Isaac Doble still getting into grips with the machine as he comes through turn number 3 and currently in at P14. And these cars are very different from touring cars. They may be the same drivetrain in terms of front engine front wheel drive, but they do have a little bit less power to them and also a bit less weight on them, and it does mean that you really do need to be quite conservative with the way you approach each and every corner here, and you need to be aggressive in equal measure when you do get it right and hit the apex on time. But as he comes through turn number 6, he's got a little bit of company behind the number 37 there. Oh, but where's Adam Delmont going on around? And Will Doble just responding by letting off the throttle and letting Delmont charge on through. But as Isaac makes his way into the pit lane, meanwhile Joseph Doble comes out the final corner. He's improved, personal best in Sector 1, Sector 2 comes on through, and it is going to be P5 there, 110.341, so Joseph Doble now starting to find his feet and his rhythm, but nobody's able to get close to Lee Holmes' pole time of 109.752, and well, with that in mind, has Lee Holmes already put the bar too high for everybody else to try and catch up to? We'll have to wait and see, but meanwhile, we do this time try and catch a lap on board with Phil McDougall as he heads across the timeline and down towards turn 1. He's over to the right, so I think this is going to be a qualifying lap, and let's ride on board. made his way in towards turn number 1. Looking to his right side for the marshals post. That's his brake marker as he just gradually drops down the gears, down to 4th, down to 3rd, lets the car overextend into 2, down to 2nd gear, clips the apex nice and late, gets a little bit premature in the approach there, and I think he'll try and improve upon that on the next lap. You can see he just got a bit too close and hasn't been able to carry all the speed he wants up to turn 3. Brakes late there, approximately 75 metres from corner apex, using the marshals off area as he makes his way out to turn number 3. Now the marshals post being a braking zone as he heads into turn number 4 now. The quick hairpin following up at turn number 4, and as he exits the right hand, and that's the run down the shortened version of the back straight and in towards turns 5 and 6. Here it's all about carrying speed in 3rd gear as he tucks the car into turn 5 and now into 6 he goes. A bit of dirty air there over the car in front, and the duel taking a bit of a rallycross mode as a result as he comes into turn number 7, but making the apex of 7 and down into 8. He's going to carry this lap all the way to the end. Doesn't want to lose the rhythm as he comes through the final corner and mounts the apex curve there and the sausage to go with it. And as he comes out the final corner, that is a lap of the B course of Motorsport Arena Ochersleben as brought to you by the CXR Project Black driver of that Phil McDougall as he heads on to another lap. But a difficult midpoint of the lap there, but so easy to make a mistake. Indeed, anybody can fall off the circuit by carrying a bit too much speed for turns 5 into 6. And right now, the prime driver knowing about that mistake, and this time he'll be looking to make it right as he has a small lock up there on the front right brake into turn 2. But gets a much later approach there to the apex curve of turn 2 this time, and that's exactly what you need as he makes his way in towards turn number 3. And we're coming on around, meanwhile, to do his first lap of the season under qualifying conditions. Here comes Mikey Doble as Shane Piggott goes P2 on a 109.931. Now only 2/10 over Lee Holmes. Meanwhile, Mikey Doble puts the first lap on the board, and it's a 111.590. Of course, he's got a long way to go in terms of getting the car up to optimum. They do need about 2 to 3 laps to get those tyres and brakes up to temperature. But the thing is, given the fact he's joined so late, he has not got all the time in the world. And what he is going to have available to him, approximately including this lap, another 4, well, in fact, another 3 laps. And therefore he is going to have time, but can Doe will get the job done in time? That will be the challenge for him, because he'll want to be up inside that top 10 most definitely. He'll not want to be the pro outside the top 10, but meanwhile looking from him to other drivers heading on around, we do look to Martin Tillin on his debut of course, and right now P7, 6.5 tenths of the pole lap set by Lee Holmes, but he is gradually finding his feet in the mid portion of the top 10. And exits the final corner here, brings out straight over to the right hand side. A bit of an aggressive approach there, so not happy with the previous lap. He goes on to another, and well, in fact, decides to come off racing line and put the car back in the pits. He might have an opportunity to put a couple more laps in, but he is running out of time, is Tilling. Meanwhile, Adam Delmont heading down towards turns 1 and 2. And as he comes through the left into right here, onto the anchors he goes. As Tilling and Addy both leaving the pits. And Matthew Addy in P6. Adam Delmont right now trying to push a bit further on the second row of the grid. He's behind Mikey Pollard at the moment. Pollard on and out, lap for DCW Racing. We see going slowly on the right of your pitch. I believe that's Michael Lease. And as Delmont comes on through turn at number 3 and in towards 4 very shortly. Well, so far it's been a smooth lap as he comes on around. Meanwhile, Lee Holmes goes even faster. And the top of the tower with a 109.696. He is lowering the bar in terms of where you've got to go in the 109s. In fact, he's raising the bar, we should really say, not to underestimate how much pace he's bringing. But as we do see Delmont coming on through turn at number 5 into 6 there. He set personal best in sector 1. This could be a better lap from Adam Delmont. Will it be enough to close up by 1,000 versus Mikey Pollard in order to be able to potentially take P3 on the grid? Well, gut feeling says if he carries this on through, it will be enough, as we are hearing that Ian Manners had a spin there on the final corner, so that's cost him dear. As he crossed the line, Adam Delmont not able to find it on the second part of the lap, and for Delmont, in fact, had to slow down there due to yellow flags, and that's a lap squandered. And well, he's got to go once again here to try and find a way to get ahead of this man on that second row of the grid. And Mikey Pollard right now absolutely delivering once again, and we're currently at the best part of which 3/10 clear of anybody else in the Pro-Am class from P3. It's then P6 overall to Matthew Addy, the next Pro-Am, and Phil McDougall P8 there. So we do have that section of the Pro-Ams versus the Pros. It's always good to see them intermingle against one another, and it does set up the recipe for what is expected to be some fantastic racing when we do go lights out and away on the open lap of the day. But meanwhile, we look from Mikey Pollard to Daniel Fritz as Fritz makes his way across the timeline. can't seem to find a way to get back into the 110s at the moment. He is, of course, trying to get himself all up to speed here as he comes through turns 1 and 2. His best, of course, being a 110.67. The last couple of laps from him have been 111s. He does want to creep back into the 10s, and this circuit not evolving against the grain. We are seeing better laps come in. I think our drivers right now just struggling to find that last little bit of time. And of course, with these tracks, when you're in those qualifying sessions that are coming towards the end, this is one of those circuits which really punishes aggressive driving. It's a circuit where you need to keep calm, you need to keep collected, and make sure not to overextend each and every braking zone. Because the later and later you brake, of course, you want to go for those late apexes, but there becomes this point where you essentially brake so late that you miss the apex, and the car just simply cannot retard itself in time, and it won't be able to rotate after braking. Of course, these cars have a lot of natural understeer to them. They do lift on the rear, and when they go through some of the sweeping corners, you will see them cock a wheel effectively. But as they make their way on around here, of course, all our drivers will feel that pressure, and they can't let it get to them. As Mignon Fritz heads towards the timeline, Pollard goes even faster in P3, 109.988. That now halves his deficit to the pole position of Lee Harms, and it essentially doubles his win. In fact, it really multiplies his advantage to Adam Delmont in P4. We've got 15 seconds left to qualifying. Lee Holmes and Shane Piggott are in the pits. They think they've got that front row locked out for what is their the ATEC Tech team ahead of Ace of Spades. Mikey Pollard, meanwhile, making his way through turn number 3, and I think trying to aid there. Well, no, I thought it was his teammate behind. It's not, in fact, it's one of the Doble brothers. So right now, Pollard just trying to go one step further. Delmont responds. He brings the gap down to a 10th, but it's not enough to get in P3. So Adam Delmont at best will be starting P4, and the grid will 110.061. So we have only seen 3 drivers achieve a 9 in this qualifying session, and it's Holmes, Piggott, and Pollard. And well, can Pollard go even faster? Can he get himself on to the front row of the grid? He is only 600th of Shane Piggott's time. Could we see a pro and a prime lockout in the front row rather than double pro as he comes out of the final corner here? Nobody really improving so far. He heads to the timeline, and what's it going to be for Mikey Pollard as he comes across? Can he find the time he needs? He can't in the end. He will stay P3 as Jamie Dory does not improve from what is P9, one of his weakest qualified sessions of the season for Dory. Meanwhile, Mikey Doble heads to the timeline, albeit through turn at number 8 first, and we joined as one of the latest drivers in the qualifying session as he comes through the final corner. What's it going to be for Mikey Doble here? Can he get himself off of the 7th row of the grid? We cross the line, and it is not an improvement for Mikey Doble. So in the end, he will be starting P14, and he's got all the work to do when he goes racing. Ian Manners, meanwhile, when he makes his way into the pit lane, we've got a driver off there in the 55, and that is Michael Lees, who's taken a bit of an inventive way to the pit lane, and will now, as they make the way on down pit row. Well, for Ian Manners, it's a P13 start, and this is not the way he's wanted to resume his championship campaign. This is going to make him very vulnerable to Mikey Pollard potentially getting very close, if not taking the lead of the championship after the races tonight, if this trend continues through all 3. So it's definitely an intriguing set of races coming up now. We have a very different grid order, albeit some favourites up there, but also we have some names we have not seen down as low, and Ian Manners the biggest blow in qualifying. But it's time for race number 1. So as our drivers make their way to the grid, this is how they'll line up for race 1 of 3. It's Lee Holmes on pole, positioning for ATEC Tech Racing ahead of Shane Piggott for Ace of Spades Racing. It's a pro lockout on the front row with Mikey Pollard for DCW Racing starting P3 on the 2nd row, joined by Adam Delmont by NXTGEN Racing. Pollard, of course, your Pro-Am pole sitter. Joseph Doble for Doble Sim Racing and NXTGEN Racing's Matthew Addy line up next on the 3rd row, with Matthew Addy being 2nd in the Pro-Am class. And then on the 4th row, we'll have Martin Tillin on his debut for Tiki Sim Sport, joined by Phil McDougall 6, half Project Black, and expects fireworks to spark between the term as they make the way on down. We then have the pair of what is Jamie Dory at P9 for there for NXTGEN Racing, joined by Whiskey Runners Racing, Daniel Fritz at P10, and on the 6th row of the grid, it's Mark Sykes for NXTGEN Racing and Ian Manners for DCW Racing, and then on the final 2 rows of the grid, it'll be Michael Lees for NXTGEN Racing, joined by Double Sim Race's Mikey Doble on the 7th row, and the 8th row will go to the prime pair of Isaac Doble on his debut for Double Sim Racing, and Kerry Tool E Motorsports' Alex Meredith also making his debut P16 out of 16, and of course we do have the safety car on standby in the pit lane. But as our drivers get set and ready to go, of course, they're all mostly in position now, and well, it is a packed grid. 16 cars will be going green flag racing shortly, and the question is who will come away the winner come the end of the first race of the day. Well, everybody there on the grid, the blimp giving a real perspective, all the liveries line up, and a wonderful day here in Germany, and will now we await for the lights out sequence in approximately 1 minute's time or less. DRS, as we are just waiting for the safety car to get into position. But of course, as we look down the grid, looking further back, Ian Manners, of course, the driver who really has not had qualifying go the way he's wanted it to. But meanwhile, for Mikey Pollard, it's two ends of the field for the DCW Racing guys, and then Lee Holmes finds himself right back up there on the front row, and pole position for the ATEC Racing driver. It's going to be all about the challenge down towards turn at number 1 for him, and of course, a standing start launch is always something that's a challenge to master, even in the Clio Cup machine. But with Shane Piggott enjoying his first front row for some time, can the Ace of Spades Racing driver potentially get one over on Holmes? Well, it's going to be close between the two of them. It was a couple attempts in qualifying, but will those attempts add up when we go for 17 laps of racing? We're 20 seconds away from lights out now, ladies and gents, with time ticks on down. And looking further back, Joseph Doble there starting P5, a good qualifying session for the number 5 driver, and can he convert that into a podium in the Pro class? He'll need to pass Adam Delmont to do so, and Delmont, of course, the man trying to hold on to the Pro Championship lead and run away, but here come the lights. And it's lights out and away we go for our first race of the day as Lee Holmes gets a good start off the line. But meanwhile, look at Adam Delmont absolutely charging out of the box, and as they make the way towards turn number 1, Holmes is clear as they head in towards the braking zone, but Mikey Pollard moves it to P2. Adam Delmont over the back, Shane Piggott being robbed and hounded as they come through turns 1 and 2, and Matthew Addy just behind. Under braking, there's going to be a few lockups, there's no doubt about it. Joseph Doble defending hard versus Martin Tilling, who tries to go around the outside of Hotel Corner. He's going to have the inside in the run towards turn number 3, but meanwhile he's got Jamie Dory trying to look for the move there, and Dory tucks back in behind. And the top 6 all in line astern. Meanwhile, behind Daniel Fritz on the inside, taking it slow through turn number 3. He's going to have what is there, I believe, Michael Lee's trying to go round to the inside of 4. Lee's getting a really good run and under braking. Everybody right now really clutching their way onto the anchors. 3 wide coming for the apex there, and that's Mikey Doe up the inside, and Daniel Fritz sent to the barrier there. And it's a general contact initially. The Whiskey Runners Racing driver, I think, will be feeling the full force there. But Mikey Doble coming on through, and he's not holding back yet, since he's now got ahead of Isaac Doble as they make their way through turns 5 and 6. And now it's going to be the 2 Doble brothers trying to chase down Martin Tilling, who is a further 1.5 seconds up the road. But as they make their way out to turn 17 towards 8, everything calms down for a brief moment. And meanwhile, we look to the front of the field, and after 1 lap of racing, it's Lee Holmes who leads by 5 tenths to the second, ahead of Mikey Pollard P2, Adam Delmont P3, ahead of Shane Piggott P4, then Matthew Addy P5, Joseph Doble P6, followed up by Jamie Dory P7, and then it's going to be Phil McDougall P8, ahead of Ian Manners P9, Martin Tilling P10, and then Best the Rest P11 at Mikey Doble there, having gained 3 places off the line from P14. But we've got Mark Sykes in the pit lane, so Sykes gone wrong for him. Meanwhile, Alex Meredith overextends on the braking into 2, and the Kemi-Toy Motorsports Machine ends up going deep and wide, but he brings it back onto the circuit there, and just a novice mistake there on his debut, and he'll learn from that one very quickly not to lock up into turn number 2. But meanwhile, we look back to the battling midfield here, and Phil McDougall find himself right in an nip-and-tuck battle versus Ian Manners and Martin Tilling as they come out of 4 and up towards 5 they go, and we ride on board and look back from the rear of the CXR Project Black machine. Now coming on through the right into left here, of course it's all about momentum at this point and follow the leader, and you want to try and put pressure on the car in front. That's exactly what Manners will be doing. But Phil McDougall here, of course, P3 in the prime class right now. He will not want to let this place go away, as meanwhile looking up the inside, that's Martin Tilling. He tries to go for a late run into turn number 8, and Tilling there trying to be one of the last late breakers, and I think he'll build a reputation for that if he carries on. But as they make their way down towards turn number 1, no change between the trio this time, but everyone started to get a little bit fast and feisty as they head in towards the braking zone. We've had Mark Sykes confirm, well, Mark Sykes Designs confirm in the YouTube chat that due to a jump start, got a penalty, so therefore he's had to come into the pits, and that's put him a lap down effectively on the field in P16. But as we look to the lead lap field here, making the way all the way out to turn number 2 and up towards 3, unfortunate for Sykes, but he'll look to bounce back from that one in the second race of the day. And of course there's still places that could be picked up if things do come his way. But as we see our drivers here all negotiating through. Now towards turn at number 4, we have got a little bit of calm for now, but I would imagine this is the calm before the proverbial storm, in the fact the top 10 separated by only small margins, and either P1 or P10 it's only 6 seconds if that, and that goes to show how much everybody's pushing everyone as they come down through 5 and into 6. But as they make the way on through the right into left, meanwhile we look to Jamie Dory trying to chase down Joseph Doble at the moment. He's got Phil McDougall 5 attempts behind, and he's got 9 attempts to Joseph Doble in front, and Matthew Addy just ahead of the member of the Doble family as they come on through to complete another lap. But what is worth noticing here is that Lee Holmes is not breaking away at the front of the field. We thought he may after what was a good start, but in fact Mikey Pollard keeping him honest as they come down into turn number 1 and 2 again. This is lap 4 of 17 as they come through the left into right here. Everybody staying equidistant at the moment, albeit Ian Mann is still right there with Phil McDougall, with Martin Tillin behind. I think this battle for P8 is going to fall away, and it will be because they're all going to start fighting one another, albeit it looks like McDougall actually starting to just gradually build a little bit of an advantage, and in fact Mann is having to worry more and more about what's in his rear view mirror, and well, of course they do put the little label on the rear view mirrors, or they used to, which is objects may appear larger than they seem, but right now as we jump aboard with Martin Tillin, I think he'll feel as though he's a large object coming the way of Manners, and that'll be to try and make a move for P9 as the pro driver here, definitely getting stuck into the racing. Now, of course, losing 3 places overall and 1 place in the pro class on the opening lap. Not the way he wanted it to go, but the launch not being quite there, and then finding himself on the outside into turn number 2, which is not the place you want to be, racing around the hotel corner. But coming in towards turn at number 7, it's a long run for all our drivers here. In terms of the length of the race, it is 20 minutes, but of course, in their minds, with those laps will gradually trickle on down, and well, for now, it's all about momentum-based racing. You've got to keep that pressure on and not let the driver in front get away. If you do, and you let them be able to get into a sense of rhythm, then they're much more likely to be able to keep you at bay for the whole entirety of the race. As we see Tillin, they're taking another little peek into turn number 1. He's really trying to get into Manners' head, but Manners right now, perhaps the one you don't want to get into dead off for the simple reason he's seen it all in this series so far, and that's why he's the Prime Championship leader, no question about it. But as they come out of 2 and up towards 3, what is it, Mikey Doble and Isaac Doble behind, and they are both very gradually closing, as meanwhile we've got a bit of a closing battle further up the road, and as we can see, Tillin here getting very close to the back of Manners, and Manners right now only 2 tenths if that. Meanwhile, Matthew Addy started to have some difficulty as the next gen racer with Sam Case's UK driver coming out to turn number 4, and he's got Joseph Doble right on his back, and he's fallen off at the top 4. Addy has really started to feel the pace crumble away, although I think it's a mistake or two through turns 3 and 4 that have cost him. As we say hello to Jamie Dory in the YouTube chat, it says coming for you, Joseph, with a big grin on his face, where you can see there Jamie Dory right behind Joseph Doble now, and I think the member of the Doble family finds himself between a rock and a hard place. The rock, what is Matthew Addy trying to hold on to P5, that's second place in prime class, and he won a P5 overall. Meanwhile, Jamie Dory there, right in the toe now as they make the one to lap number 6. He takes a look once, he takes a look twice, and this time as he goes onto the brakes, it's going to be too wide, and it will be the battle under the braking into turn number 2, and well there, Jamie Dory just about shuts the line off as Joseph Doble not able to respond there, and as a result, Jamie Dory moves up to P6 in a firm but fair move as they come out of 2 and up towards 3, but a nice move all the same, and now in the run, his target will be Matthew Addy for P5 overall. Meanwhile, Shane Piggott just up the road here and still trying to keep Adam Delmont within targeted distance. With the gap between the two now to 9 tenths, almost a second there as they clear the turn for Apex, albeit it does oscillate to cause different lines through quarters. With a live timing does mean that we'll see our drivers' gaps oscillate to a degree, but meanwhile further down the order we have had Daniel Fritz get ahead of Michael Lees. I think Lees will lock up into turn 3 from what I'm gathering, and the Whiskey Runners racing driver here from Australia gaining P13 and what is P6 of the Prime class, and these two in a nice little battle for P6, not quite inside the top 5, with Isaac Doble creeping off into the distance, but still, Isaac Doble with 6 seconds clear. They're not afraid of battling one another and enjoying what points they can scrap for as they make their way through 17 to 8, albeit now I think Fritz will keep the momentum and keep clear as they come on through the final quarter to go onto the start for this straight, albeit I say that, at least getting a much better exit out of the corner, in fact closing the gap down by half a tenth alone on Apex, and as they come down, could this be a move from Fritz? I think it's a long way to go, but if he's able to find it under braking, perhaps he can get in to Fritz's head as they head into the braking zone, but in the end, Lee's having to stay put and not able to make the move. Meanwhile, Matthew Addy under pressure from Dory. Dory looks at the inside into turn number 3. Addy there puts in the middle of the road. He sets up the run to the inside of turn number 4. Of course, we have authority here, but Dory's going to simply try and cut it back. But look at Joseph Doe. We're really using the landscape of the road to his advantage. A bit of contact there with what is Dory, and as they make the way up towards turn at number 6, and no way through as they come through the right-hander of 5. But Joseph Doe made to back off again, but sending a clear message to Jamie Dory, which is just because you've got past me doesn't mean I'm going to disappear anytime soon. And as they come through turn at number 7, I think Joseph Doe will once again be looking for an opportunity to try and come back at his pro rival. As they come through the right-hander of turn number 8, really close down. Addy just not there on the pace. They come out the corner. You can see everybody snake training along the start for this straight now behind Addy. They all want the toe, and of course for Joseph Double, he'll get a double toe. And Phil McDougall only 7 tenths behind, so we could see Phil McDougall get close to this battle and start to move into a position to battle for P2 in the prime class as Dory there jumps over the entry curve into 1, and well, as they do, Joseph Double taking a much more gentle line by comparison, trying to protect the car as they come out of 2 and up towards 3, but Addy again just having to go defensive immediately into 3. And the problem here is every time they go too wide through these corners, well, Dory this time tries to do what Addy did on the previous lap, which is set up the run to the inside of 4. Can't quite find it as Addy closes the door under braking here. And you can see Josie Doe trying to go a little bit deeper, trying to give himself the leverage out the corner for the short run up towards turn number 5, but he can't find it. And as a result, he has to just sit there and wait. And this is a frustrating place to be because you're waiting right now on the whim of the 2 drivers in front to make a mistake and battle hard enough to give you an opportunity. Josie Doe will making a mistake for himself there as we almost mince our words. He comes through 7 and in towards 8, and just that dirty air starting to wash out the front end of the car where he's carrying as much speed as he possibly can, but taking a bit too much speed. But meanwhile, further back, Mikey Doble up the inside there, and Martin Tillin. We're hearing that Tillin had an off track at 7. That set up an opportunity for Mikey Doble, and well, you don't need to ask him twice. Now Mikey Doble moves up into the top 10. 4 places gained and still more to go as they make their way down the start finish straight and in the charge here. And meanwhile, it's going to be a return opportunity for Martin Tillin if he can get close enough, but not close enough to look for the move this time, and instead just following in the wheel tracks his rival. Meanwhile, looking back up to that battle for P5 where all the action really is, and you can see again Jeremy Dory now on the blinkers trying to distract Addy. And Addy, well, we do know that Matthew Addy doesn't normally see those lights in terms of flashing lights. He just puts them out of his head, and really right now it's energy being expended for Dory as they make their way through the right hand. And Dory will lock up a bit of contact, I think, there with Addy, but I think Addy just locking up. But either way, it's going to be too wide in the run towards turn number 5. Side by side they go into the right hand, and Dory thinks about committing. In the end has to back out. It's only one way through. They jump over the apex curve, but turn number 6 is brilliant action as they come down towards the braking zone. But meanwhile, look at Phil McDougall. He's now over the back of Joseph Doble, and this is what we were worried about earlier for Doble, and the fact that the CXR Project Black car, it will find its way onto the back of this battle, and it will not hesitate to get involved. And as they make the way out of turn at number 8 and across the timeline, well, meanwhile we say hello there to Nick Clemens, who says good work Lee Holmes. And indeed, Lee Holmes doing a fantastic job in the lead. But meanwhile, looking back here, well, Dory looks to the outside and he comes him off, and he tries to do it once again, but Dory cannot find a way through. But I think now patience is wearing thin, and Dory wants to get this done because they are now 6 seconds almost of a Shane Piggott in P4, and that's how much their battling's cost them. You can see Piggott goes through the camera and he defends once again. Dory on the outside, and Dory a lot further ahead under braking this time in terms of the overlap as they come through the left-hander. Well, Dory will have the run into the inside of 4. Joseph Doble's there to try and pick up the pieces. And as they come through the right-hander, we're going all the way around the outside, but as he goes deep there, Dory's still on the inside of Addy, and surely this time Dory is not going to give up. He will stay there on the inside all the way into turn number 5. 2 wide, they're going to the right-hander, into left of 6, 2 wide on entry once again, and will Dory made to back out once more, and will great respectful racing between them, but Matthew Addy absolutely stubborn as a mule, and the B3's got every right to. They're fighting for overall championship points as they come through turn 8 and go on to what will very shortly be lap number 11 and 17. And will meanwhile up the road, Adam Delmont now starting to appear under growing pressure from Shane Piggott. Piggott losing 3 places, in fact 2 places off the line, so he's trying to make amends here by getting back at Adam Delmont. But meanwhile, looking from them back to Dory versus Addy, and what is then the train of Doble, McDougall, followed by also Ian Manners, Mikey Doble and Martin Tillin. We have got a grand total of 7 cars in this long train, and they're all stuck behind the proverbial cork of Matthew Addy, and well, somebody's going to have to pop the cork eventually out of the bottle, and Dory's the one trying, but now under pressure from Doble. And that's Joseph Doble trying to go around the outside, and I think the number 5 driver at this point just trying to get a bit overeager. There goes deep, and now he's under pressure from Phil McDougall, so they come on through the right-hander, but still McDougall there tries to cut it back, but Joseph Doble gets the car parked and says, I've seen that one coming, I've seen it plenty of times before. And as they make the way out, meanwhile, Mikey Doble versus what is, I do believe, Ian Manners there, not close enough to go for the move. Tilling still following suit as well. I think Tilling's trying to set himself up for a run on multiple drives. In fact, he's holding back a little bit, but as they come into the right-hander, we've got Jamie Dory off circuit. In fact, Dory has rejoined, and he's rejoined on the apex of 7. Tucked in behind Joseph Doble there, up the inside into turn number 8. Drivers side by side, Addy's been released here as they make the way into lap number 12 of 17. Still another 6 to go as they head across the timeline, but right now Dory having to fend for his life, as meanwhile Joseph Doble under pressure from Phil McDougall into 1. McDougall on the left of your picture, Doble on the right, but McDougall falls back into line here. He does want to disrupt the momentum. He wants more places. He wants the place of Addy. He doesn't want the place of a Doble Dory. He cares about P2 in the prime class. And as they come through turn number 2, hotel corners cleared and everybody in the long line, but now heading up towards turn number 3. It's non-stop between them. as they head into the next braking zone. But as we head to the back of the group here, we jump on board with the TE Simsport car, Martin Tilling, and we'll ease to the prime position here to see how it all plays out as they make their way through a lock-up there from Joseph Doble, and well, they all start to lock up into braking. Everybody leaving it as late as possible to break into their hairpin. Somebody's going to get it wrong surely in a minute, and well, we don't want to wish it on anybody, but whoever gets it wrong, the drivers behind are going to pick up the pieces. There's no question about it, as they all come through, all hopping over the curve, apart from Tilling there being very conservative at his curve application. But meanwhile, in the battle for P3, it's too wide coming out of the final corner. It's Piggott on the inside versus Delmont on the outside. They charge their way down towards turn number 1. I think Shane Piggott's got this as they drag race their way up towards turn number 1 once again, and the Ace of Spades racing drivers got ahead as they head into the braking zone here. It's a nice move from Shane Piggott. Meanwhile, further behind, we've got Doble, Joseph Doble versus Jamie Dory. It's Joseph Doble on the left of your picture. Meanwhile, Dory on the right of your picture. Into the braking zone they go. You can see there, Manners versus Mikey Doble just behind. Mikey Doble at the inside. There's contact between Manners and Mikey Doble, and they both go off circuit together. It's an unfortunate one there. I think Mikey Doyle just carrying a bit too much speed, and a lock up on the inside on the run into 2. And well, there an innocent mistake as they both rejoin the racing, and that's going to knock them out of the battle for P5. But meanwhile, as they gradually come back, and Mikey Doble there just getting it slightly wrong. Meanwhile, we look back to Dory versus Joseph Doble, and Phil McDougall again trying to go around. He goes over the deep to McDougall. Joseph Doble there on the outside. He's still there as they come through, but Jamie Dory holds it firm as they make their way into turns 5 and 6. Line astern as they come through the right into left, and as they do now, we say hello to Martin Tilling in the YouTube chat. It says a lot of cars indeed. This long train will now have started to partition. I think this is where drivers are just starting to find that threshold, that upper threshold of pushing too hard. 4 more laps to go as they go to lap 14 shortly, and Jamie Dory definitely now feeling the pressure of fending off the charge for P6 from Joseph Doble and what is effectively P4 in the Pro class. But as we look here to the battle for what is P3 overall, P2 in the Pro class, it's a battle for the podium steps between Shane Piggott and Adam Delmont. Well, of course, Piggott going up the inside of Delmont into turn 8, only a couple of laps to go. But now, as we ride on board and look back from the rear of the 27, Piggott under pressure from Delmont, and Delmont, of course, biding his time. And that's the one thing we do know about Delmont. We saw it earlier in the season at Laguna Seca, in terms of the fact that whatever pace Delmont brings into the start of the race day, he's only going to get faster. Delmont grows in these races. He comes alive as time goes on. And as they make their way out of turn 4 and up towards 5, well, right now, Adam Delmont there just looking for the small mistake, the chink in the armour, if you will, of Shane Piggott. But as they come through 5 and 6, meanwhile, we've had an instant further back, and it's Joseph Doble who's had an off track of some description. In fact, what on earth has happened there? Where's Phil McDougall also? Well, something's gone very wrong for not just Phil McDougall, but also Joseph Douglas dropped down to P8, Martinson up to P7, but Phil McDougall's lost out the most of everybody, and well, we've missed what's happened there. What I can tell you is it's been quite the instant between them as Phil McDougall brings his way back up towards turn number 7, and as he does, well, that battle now for P5 and P6 will definitely have come to its natural conclusion, as meanwhile, drivers continue the way on around, and McDougall now has Michael Lees closed up with 4.5 tenths the gap between the two as they exit the final corner. But they head on to lap number 15, and as they do, now McDougall back in battling for P5 in class. Meanwhile, as we do look from there back up to Joseph Doble, well, we can see here dropping back to P8 behind Martin Tilling, and well, the gap to Tilling is 4 seconds practically. So something has gone wrong for the Doble Sim Racing driver as he comes out to turn number 2 and up towards 3, with Tilling now comfortably clear and in P5 in the Pro class on his debut in race number 1. But still, he has got what is a 3-second gap to Jamie Dory. As Dory having a lock up there in turn number 4, he could still find a little bit more time as he comes out of the right-hander, albeit he's not got long left if he's going to try and find that time. And meanwhile, we look back to Shane Piggott versus Adam Delmont here as they come through 7 into 8. And will Piggott, of course, muscling his way into position versus Delmont at this corner. A few laps to go, and it looks so Delmont now starting to get the leverage in return as they head down towards the penultimate lap. Meanwhile, Mikey Pollard and Lee Holmes running away as we look to Lee Holmes here, your leader. He has got Pollard keeping him honest, and in fact the last couple of laps both Holmes and Pollard have been exchanging lap time and trying to match one another, and Pollard in particular really grinding into this race now. They're both lapping in the low 110s, everybody else in the mid to high 110s, if not the low 111s. But as we look back to the battle for P3 here, well, Holmes and Pollard I think are going to be your definite winners in the Pro and the Prime class respectively, presuming they don't have any late mistakes. But the battle for the final spot on the overall podium is going to come down to the wire between Piggott and Delmont. But I think Piggott may have a bit of control over this as Delmont will lock up there on the front right brake, and that will cost them a little bit of tyre life as they come out of 4 and out towards 5. Meanwhile, further back, Mikey Doble trying to now make a recovery, battling with Michael Lees. And here as they come into the braking zone, We're going to be looking up the inside, but Mikey Doe can't quite find it as Leash just rides the apex curve. Feels safe there in the battle for P12, but Mikey Doe now trying to set him up on the outside. Cutting back to the inside through 4, but Leash just parks it there and says, no you don't. But Mikey Doe says, yes I do, as he gets the better run off the corner on the inside. Now will Doe continue to on the inside into 5. He is going to go on, he's going to make Leash have to go deep as he comes on around on the outside now at 6. Well, Leash simply does the same back to him, but you can see this momentum racing right now as Doe on the outside into turn 7. It'll be another cutback run through the right hand and makes Leash go a little bit deep, but can't quite get the run with the sausage curve there, just upsetting the car, and Mikey Doe has to wait, but Leash has a lock up into the final corner as they come around to go on to the final lap, and the battle for P12 is well on. But meanwhile, making the way all the way through down towards turn 3 for the final time of asking in race 1 of today, it's Piggott versus Delmont as they come through the left and into the right, and right now Delmont not able to find the way. We've seen this time and time again, the gap has stayed at 2.5 tenths on average, and Delmont just locking up that front right brake every time, and it does feel as though right now for Michael Lees, it's just, well, not for Michael Lees, I apologise, for Adam Delmont, it's not going to come as they come through turn 5 into 6. But meanwhile, speaking of things to come, as we look to the front of the field, well, here is Lee Harms and the A-Tech Racing driver put it on pole by quite a margin in qualifying, by 2 tenths, if not more so. And as he comes through the final corner, he's been absolutely unstoppable all through race number 1. He's never looked back, and Lee Holmes at ATX Racing is your winner in race number 1, prime overall. Head of Mikey Polo adds another prime win to its collection in P2, and it's Shane Piggott who holds off Adam Delmont to the line to take the final spot on the overall podium. Piggott and Delmont be on the pro podium together. Matthew Addy P5 there, runner-up in the prime class, and he deserved P5 of that with the work he had to put in. Jamie Dory P6 there, Martin Tillin who takes a P7 on his debut, ahead of Joseph Doble at P8 there, also on his debut, right in the thick of the battle in action for Doble Sim Racing. Isaac Doble rounds off your prime podium and a brilliant drive to P9 overall, ahead of Ian Manners who recovered to P10 after difficulties of qualifying. Phil McDougall P11 ahead of Mikey Doble P12, and then it will be Michael Lees who finishes P13, ahead of shortly what is Daniel Fritz, as Fritz makes his way out of the final corner for Whiskey Runners Racing, and what a difficult start to proceedings today for the Australian, but still plenty more to come. P14 for him, and Alex Meredith P15 as he crosses the line. They're the last of our lead lap finishers, with Mark Sykes are not of retirement but finishing a lap down in P16. Indeed, 16 starters, 16 finishers and 15 on the lead lap. But as our drivers gradually make their way into the pit lane, Lee Holmes, of course, well, the ATEC races, he will be absolutely pleased with the fact that today he starts off an absolute banger of a win, and well, can he continue that in the second race? I think he can. Mikey Pollard the same. Those wins continue to come his way in the prime class, and also those overall points really now starting to come through consistently. And I think the number 73 driver here really mounting a challenge of both the prime and the overall championships at this midpoint in the season, with Piggott as well enjoying one of his best performances of the season in P3 overall. As all our drivers make their way into the pit lane, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. Well, after 17 laps of racing here in race number 1 of the round number 5 of the Next Gen Racing front-wheel drive Friday's Clio Cup, as brought to you on iRacing, ATEC Races Lee Holmes taking the win in the end by what was 1.3 seconds over Mikey Pollard P2. The ATEC Racing drive looking unstoppable, but DCW Races Mikey Pollard keeping him honest all the way, and Pollard bringing on home the prime win behind the pro winner. Shane Piggott round off the overall podium there for Ace of Spades Racing, a further what was 2.5 seconds back in a great drive to fend off Adam Delmont to the line. The Next Gen Racing driver completing at the pro podium, ahead of Matthew Addy in P5. The Next Gen Racing driver being your runner-up in the prime class and fending off the charge of many a driver, but the key one being his teammate Next Gen Racing of Jamie Dory, who finished P6. Martin Tillin P7 for Tiki Simsport, and a great start with a P5 in the pro class to go with his P7 overall. And then Joseph Doble P8 there for Doble Sim Racing, ahead of brother Isaac Doble at P9, and Isaac Doble round off the prime podium of Pollard, Addy and Doble, with what was Ian Manners P10 there for DCW Racing. Phil McDougall best of rest P11 for CXR Project Black, knowing the podium was up for grabs, but unfortunately an instant midway through the race cost him dear. And then Mikey Doble at P12 there for Doble Sim Racing, ahead of Michael Lees, with Daniel Fritz and Alex Meredith completing your top 15, and then Mark Sykes P16 there, what was classified as 2 laps down come the finish, but as he completed over half the race distance, he will be classified as a finisher in P16. But as Katie Eames there says in the Facebook chat, enjoyed that race. Let's see what happens in race 2. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back in approximately what is 7 to 8 minutes time for the build up to race number 2. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the second race of the day in the front-wheel drive Fridays Clio Cup, as brought to you by NXTGEN Racing and hosted on iRacing. But as our drivers make their way out of the final practice session and towards the grid for our second race of the day, we're coming right back into the heat of it. Indeed, race number 2 is about to get underway with another 17 laps being the theme of the racing. And our drivers are all set, and indeed now this final practice warm-up session has turned over to the grid for our second race, and we can't quite walk you through the grid due to the technical limitations of a replay file. What we can do is look to the grid as it lines up, and unfortunately the technical issue we have been trying to resolve and that held us from coming back by a couple of minutes, well, this technical issue that you can see on the grid right now is you'll notice that certain drivers' liveries are not the correct ones. We've been trying to fix it, but for some reason this is a bug that's come out of nowhere, so indeed we will just have to see what we can do with it and hope that it's able to be resolved ahead of our final race of the day. But as all of our drivers get lined up, we do have Lee Holmes on pole, of course, and some of our drivers' liveries have loaded correctly, others have not. But as everybody gets set here, it is going to be another 17 laps of racing, and who is going to come out on top come the end of it, well, we're going to find out very shortly, as we are just waiting for the final cars to get in place on the grid, and it will be 17 laps of racing action. And Lee Holmes, of course, starting pole position once more with Mikey Boyle alongside, who will come out on top in the battle for overall win. And it's lights out and away we go in the second race of the day here as Lee Holmes gets a good start. And well, he's made a good start once, he makes another one twice. And as they make their way down towards turn number 1, you see the Mikey Pollard coming off. Meanwhile, oh goodness me, a major instant further back. And I believe that is Michael Lees who's practically gone onto his roof there. And well, somebody else in contact with him, Daniel Fritz, I think, being caught up. But as all our drivers come charging through turns 1 and 2, well, everyone needs to line the stern very quickly. Meanwhile, Martin Tilling and Joseph Doble side by side as they exit the corner, but most of our drivers here off to an immediate start, albeit coming in towards turn number 3, and all the liveries now seem to have loaded correctly as Ian Manners makes his way through turn number 3, through left hand he goes, and the DCW Racing driver having a good run off the line, albeit now as he goes into the braking zone, you can see there Mikey Doble immediately going to defensive field, but Doble will turn slightly, but they both still had the contact there, as Badil will give the opportunity to regain momentum, and Alex Meredith now trying to put one round the outside of the pro, and Mikey Doble as they come through 5 into 6, both drivers side by side into turn number 6. Meredith goes in very hot, goes in a bit too hot indeed, and as he takes plenty of apex going, it upsets the car, and Meredith made to fall back to P13 as they come charging through the right hander down towards the final corner. You can see Meredith all out of sorts now as Mark Sykes making a recovery from the back of the grid. Well, he's already gained 2 places. He goes for a third here as they come out the final corner. Meredith almost loses it there, and as they charge down towards turn number 1, it's Holmes ahead of Pollard, followed by Delmont. Then it's Piggott and Dory complete your top 5. Matthew Addy P6, then Joseph Doble P7, Martin Tilling P8, Tilling under pressure from Isaac Doble, and Ian Manners completes your top 10. With Phil McDougall there in P11. Meanwhile, cars off the circuit, and that's Joseph Doble. And also, I believe, Lee Holmes. Both drivers have got it wrong. Another driver up there, that's Daniel Fritz. Fritz goes overly deep. A lot of drivers getting it wrong at turn number 1 and 2 under braking. And as they do, well, that means now Mikey Pollard should race leader, with Lee Holmes already having to go on the offensive here versus what is Joseph Doble as they come through turn number 3. It's absolutely all over the place here in the battles of the field, but right now 3 drivers getting it wrong through the opening 2 corners on the second lap, and with that in mind, now it does mean that Leon finds himself well out of position, and well, his target will be to finish P8, because that will give him a reverse grid pole for the final race of the day. But meanwhile, here's your race leader, hits the prime of Mikey Pollard, and he's got Adam Delmont right behind him. Delmont now can bare his fangs and think about trying to take this overall win to give himself overall championship position, but also to try and get back some points based on the fact he lost out versus what was Lee Holmes on the opening race. But as they head towards the end of lap 2 and on to 3 they go. Adam Delmont absolutely charging. He doesn't need to be motivated twice about this as they all head down towards turn number 1. And you can see there Pollard just keeping his cool and carried on. Further back, Mikey Doble now started to find a sense of rhythm after a difficult race number 1. He's behind Phil McDougall as we jump on board here with the number 12. And we've got more cars going deep there, and Will McDougall being in a tap on the back. I think Doble saying to get a move on, there's space for you to go for it, and Manners there falling behind. Meanwhile in front of them, that's Isaac Doble. Isaac Doble defends on the inside here under braking. 2 by 2 they go into turn number 3. Mikey Doble trying to carry all the speed with the road camber. He'll set the run into the inside for 4. You can see that Manners trying to squeeze as much as possible. McDougall on the outside here being knocked about as Phil McDougall, but this time Mikey Doble up the inside and gets it done as McDougall falls back. Ian Manners falls further comes back, and now Mikey Doyle moves on to P8, tucked in behind brother Isaac as they come through the right-hander, and all good, more contact there. Phil McDougall comes back, and with the CXR Project Black driver not afraid to get his elbows out, and more beautiful racing there from the 83 as he comes on through turn number 7 and down towards 8, and into the braking zone they go. And as they do right now, everybody knows the tail as they come through the final quarter and up towards the next lap. And will the battle for P7, it's falling a long way off of the top 6, but rest assured right now we may have 2 packs for him, but the 2 packs are absolutely full of potential battling opportunities. Speaking of which, Shane Piggott now under pressure from Jamie Dory behind. We've had one next-gen car to fend off of the previous race. Meanwhile, Phil McDougall here up the inside of what is Isaac Doyle. This is a P3 in the prime class. A little bit of contact between the two of them there. Phil McDougall definitely making sure to make that position his as they come out of 2 on towards 3. They charge. You see Isaac Doyle, they're trying to come back with Mikey Doyle on the outside. And as they come through the left-hander, well, right now the 2 and 12, I think are going to have to exchange places shortly, given the way they've set up, unless Isaac can cover off his brother. Well, he does there, he goes a bit deep, and Mikey's going to look up the inside as they come through the right-hander, and meanwhile, Ian Manners now trying to capitalise there versus Isaac Doble, can't quite find it as they head up towards turn at number 5, and long run they go, but as they do here, Ian Manners right now just keeping his car and looking out for Mark Sykes behind, with Mark Sykes trying to move into the prime top 5, and right now P6. As they come through turn at number 7, everything goes calm once more as they come into the braking zone for turn number 8. And meanwhile, at the front of the field, in the battle for P3, this is Shane Piggott defending versus Jamie Dory. And we can't train the fault earlier in the fact he spent most of race 1 fend off Adam Delmont, and Abe held himself under pressure, fend off Jamie Durrance from one next-gen car to another. And the Ace of Spades 27 right now showing what it's got as Piggott makes his way a little bit deep into 2, brings it just about back to the line for the exit turn number 2, but Dory's going to be there on the outside, run up towards the next braking zone for 3, and as they come on in, will Dory not far enough ahead or alongside at least to be able to carry the momentum on round. So Shane Piggott doing a good job of defending here. Albeit, of course, this battling is giving Delmont and Pollard the opportunity just to run away with things. As they come out of 4 and up towards 5, the top 2 now 2 seconds clear. As they come down towards turns 5 and 6, meanwhile we look back to Lee Holmes. Of course, Lee Holmes has gone the recovery drive. Meanwhile, all in the battle here. This is Mikey Doyle against Phil McDougall. These two no strangers to one another as they come into turn number 5. Well, this rivalry right now across the 2 classes of driver. And McDougall goes a bit deep there at 6. The car carries on. And we can see they're putting the brakes on, trying to get the car to stop. Then it does. He lets the car roll forward and starts to steer it back to the asphalt. And we'll Phil McDougall there with a small and rare mistake. It's a costly one. It drops into P13. And Mikey Doyle now finds himself clear of the pack into P7 overall. And he can go hunting after Martin Tilling. And we can see there that what is a 4-second gap being defined by the yardage on the start-finish straight. As meanwhile we look back up to the battle behind, and this is Manners versus Isaac Doble. On the inside it's Manners, right, your picture for the DCW Racing yellow machine, and you can see also behind there Mark Sykes trying to look for the move, tries to go all the way around the outside at 2, and as he does, can't quite make it happen, but Josie Doble tries to sneak his way into the gap there that Mark Sykes has left open, but no way through as we jump on board with the number 666 machine, looking around the outside this time on Isaac Doble as they come into 3. Can't quite find it. Will he set up a cutback? I don't think he will. As meanwhile, Joseph Doble there at his inside. It's door rubbing up towards turn number 4. Onto the brakes here for Sykes. Of course, Joseph Doble made to go very deep on the outside. There won't be enough room for him to really carry the car around. And Joseph Doble falls back and Mark Sykes retakes P10. As we say hello to Jonathan Collins in the Facebook chat. I'm doing well, Jonathan. I hope you're doing it well as well and enjoying the fantastic racing here as Sykes bounces his way off the turn 6 apex curve, heads up towards 7, but definitely now finds himself having to rebuild the ground he's lost to Isaac Doble. But as they make the way on towards another lap shortly, meanwhile we look to your leaders. And here is Mikey Pollard versus Adam Delmont. It's prime leader ahead of pro leader. And well, I think Adam Delmont wants the roles reversed as they come into the opening corner. But meanwhile, Piggott under pressure for Dory. A little bit of tap to the rear of Piggott's car by looks of things as Dory tries to capitalise. But Piggott brings the car to the inside of 2 and says, no, you don't. And as they come out of the right-hander and up towards turn at number 3, well, Piggott defends here. Dory trying to look for everything around the outside. He's almost fully alongside. But again, just not able to complete the final 25% of that run. And if you can get fully alongside, it sets you up for the run to the inside for turn number 4, but it looks like Piggott they're coming off the inside before Dory can even think about seizing it as they come through the right hander of 4 and up towards 5 they go. Well, that's their run. Meanwhile, behind Matthew Addy started to encroach in P5 with Martin Tilling 7/10 back, so you can see how this battle for P3 is now starting to bring other belligerents into the situation. But meanwhile, off circuit is Mark Sykes. We can't quite see him on the camera, but he rejoins on the exit of 4. I think Mark Sykes having an off under braking into turn number 4. Now, whether that was of his own volition or whether he was forced off, We don't quite know, but what we do know is he's dropped from battling inside of the top 10 to P13, and he is effectively 4.5 seconds off of Phil do with the next drive up the road in P12. So a difficult midpoint of the race for Mark Sykes, but still keeping his head down and carrying on. Meanwhile, further back, Daniel Fritz trying to chase down Michael Lees. This is a P14, and the Whiskey Runners Racing driver, well, he may be battling for the large portion of points of the Pro-Am class, but whether they're low or high, it doesn't matter to him. He's enjoying the racing as they make the way through the right into left of 5 and 6, and we'll run that up towards 7 here. I think with some damage on the front of Lee's car, he's losing a lot on the straights, but meanwhile, we look from them to those making their way out of the start for this straight, down towards turn number 2 and 3, and this is Isaac Doble, fending off Joseph Doble and Lee Holmes, and where it's going to be side by side in the run in towards 3, and that's going to be Joseph Doble on the right of your picture, and then on the inside it will, on the outside we should say on the left hand side, it was Lee Holmes. The camera positions are inverted now, and as they make the way out towards turn number 4, well, Isaac Doble here definitely making himself as wide as humanly possible, even against his brother from Doble Sim Racing, and heading it up towards turn number 5. They stay as they were. And the key thing here is it's not going to be an easy pass for Joseph as he looks around the outside into 5. Isaac gives it the space, and they look to the inside of 6. But Isaac there carries all the speed, and Isaac Doble right now under pressure from 2 sides. Leo's looks up the inside, can't quite find it, and well, it's going to be Joseph who goes wide. As a result, as they come through 7 into the break, it's over turn line. They go. Joseph rejoins, albeit he's got Lee Holmes on his inside here, and Lee Holmes now trying to drag race and slip through his way down the start and finish straight. It's 2 by 2 they go in the battle for P9 through to P12, and as they head down towards turn number 1, well, who's it going to be? Phil McDougall here's got his nose out of Isaac Doble. He is starting to pull clear. He's going to have to make it to the outside of 1. He gets it done, and Phil McDougall brave there on the brakes, and meanwhile Lee Holmes on the inside of Joseph Doble. Holmes still there, and well, Joseph is not backing down. It's 2-1 a corner exit, but McDougall settling down now. They'll start to find it's a one-way slipstream run up towards turn at number 3. Onto the brakes goes Holmes. He goes defensive here, and well, meanwhile Doble around the outside, can't quite find it as they exit the corner, and Lee Holmes finally takes that P11 position. But my goodness, these guys absolutely unrelenting. It's still going, but Lee Holmes going deep there under breaking into 4. It's a lock up, and Joseph gets the elbows out and says, right, I'll take that, thank you very much. And Lee Holmes made to wait in the 18th racing driver. How different it is compared to race number 1. An early mistake in this race, putting him down the order, and now really having to fight his way past and having difficulty in finding his way past the Doble brothers as they make the way in towards 7. But meanwhile, looking from them up to West Martin Tilling in P5, and well, right now he's found his way past Matthew Addy quite recently as they make their way down the start for the straight. Tilling up to P5 overall, still P4 in the Pro class, having recently passed the Pro-Am. So now for Tilling, his next target will be fellow class member of Jamie Dory, and will Dory of course all over the back of Shane Piggott in that battle for what is P3 overall, and also on top of that P2 in the Pro class. So Martin Tilling right now thinking about an opportunity to go hunting for a Pro podium, and he has got just under half this race remaining to go for it, so there is time to tell. But meanwhile, speaking of time here, Michael Lees having what was a difficult run there out of turn number 8, and as they head across the timeline and down towards turn number 1, well, Daniel Fritz has found his way on through in the Whiskey Runners Racing drive breakaway. You can see that Fritz just has got no comparison in terms of speed. He's just a world of his own. Lees, by comparison, with that damage on the front end of his Clio, being costed about 3 to 4 miles an hour down the start for this straight, and well, it is absolutely hurting him in the chase. But meanwhile, we look back to Isaac Doble versus Joseph Doble, and well, they've fallen behind, of course, at Phil McDougall. Meanwhile, we had an off for Lee Holmes. He's headed off circuit at turn number 4 from what I'm hearing. And Mark Sykes has gone past, but meanwhile, Joseph Doble then locks up under braking into turn number 8, just stops the car in time before taking it to the grass, but nobody seems to find a way past Isaac Doble. And I can tell you right now, the number 2 driver, he may be a pro, but he is defending like a pro here. It's the lion that's roaring inside of him, and right now the Doble sim racing driver is proving to be the fawn of anybody who even dares to look for a move on him. The only one who found a way through is Phil McDougall, but otherwise everybody else has come unstuck, and I don't think right now they can quite believe how well Isaac is putting that car from left to right all over the circuit, and fairly in a holding position. But as they make the way towards turn number 3, meanwhile already coming towards the end of this lap, Mikey Pollard still being pressured by Adam Delmont as we look back for the rear of the DCW racing machine. Now coming out of 6 and into 7 here, of course, they've been like this for some time, effectively for the last 8 laps. And well, what can Delmont do? Well, I think what he's got to do now is really start to tighten the noose in terms of getting closer and closer under braking and starting to look for those feints, those dummies to get in the head of Pollard. But the problem is the DCW racing drive just does not let things phase, and we've talked about it so many times. And well, it's just proving true in the fact that as they make their way to turn 1 and 2, Pollard's lines ever consistent, albeit albeit slightly off there through 1. It's cost him a little bit of approach to the apex at 2, but Delmont not able to seize on that. It's those small infractions that don't really matter. It's the big mistakes that matter most, and Delmont not able to force one of those out at the moment. But meanwhile, we look back from there to Isaac versus Joseph Doble, and well, the two brothers this time I think will go to blows into turn number 2, but Joseph's had to run around the outside. Isaac on the inside. We'll have to give the space, but as they exit the corner, it's going to be Joseph on the right, your picture, Isaac on the left, and into the braking zone they go, and in the end, Isaac takes a look back, but Joseph Doble gets it done, and where it's all about a run out the final corner, but Joseph Doble finally, on what is I think the 7th time of asking, finding a way past Isaac Doble, and right now, we'll credit where it's due. It's been a brilliant battle between the two brothers, and you can't take anything from them as they make their way up towards turns 5 and 6, but looking from them up towards Mikey Pollard once again here, when we looked from the back of the DCW racing machine, and as we jump aboard with Adam Delmont as he makes his way down the start finish straight. 5 more laps to go, including the one they've gone on to. They're on lap 13 of 17, and Delmont now within 1.5 tenths this time as he heads into 2. Delmont is getting closer and closer with every lap, and the pressure is there, but of course catching is one thing, passing is another, as the late Murray Walker has said, and well, that does not apply too badly to this pair either. The fact that Delmont right now, he'll know where Pollard may be vulnerable, but Pollard in return will know exactly where he'll be able to put that car. We have seen you can defend very well around here at Oschersleben. You can make the attacking driver have to work the hardest possible angles, and will Delmont, of course, having experienced that battling with Shane Piggott for lap after lap in race 1, he'll now know where all the tricks are and where he's got to try and make those moves work. It's the momentum, it's the cutbacks, which are the difference between finishing behind and finishing front, but he won't be finishing front if he makes a mistake like that, running wide out of turn number 6. He keeps the car together, he doesn't really lose too much time, but he's got to be careful of that, of course. We go, oh my good lord, he gets extremely close on the braking, and Delmont right now, I think, all in with regards to trying to look for the move as they make their way down towards a turn at number 1 once again. But Adam Delmont here pushing it and almost pushing it way too far. But as they head on down, meanwhile, third back, you can see Shane Piggott, Jamie Dory, gap between the two of them for P3 at being 7 tenths. And Martin Tilling, by comparison, is closing on the pair by 4 tenths a lap currently. So Tilling could be there within what is the next lap or two. Albeit, in fact, we need to correct ourselves on that, not 4 tenths a lap. That's Matthew Addy who's closing on them by 4 tenths a lap. Tilling's closing by 2 tenths a lap. So we could see Addy yet get back into the fight as they make the way down into turn number 3. As they come through the left-hander and up towards 4, everything now starting to enter a little bit of a quiet zone, albeit I think it will come down to the final couple laps and potential mistakes. The lockups are plenty from drivers there coming into turn number 4, and everybody now right on the ragged edge of adhesion as they head towards the end of this race. But most battles have subsided. It's the battle at the very front which will be the focus for all the way through to the end, and also that potential battle for P3 just behind as Pollard defends there. Delmont looks around the outside. He tried to scramble to the inside, but Pollard saw it coming and made a last-ditch run to the inside. And as they make their way down the start-finish straight, it's going to be a drag race here. And Delmont right now thinking about it, as we're hearing there's been an off-track for Martin Tilling that's dropping him down the order. But meanwhile, it's going to be Delmont on the inside into 1, Pollard on the left of your picture. And as they come on in, well, Delmont finds the move and gets it done, I think, or does he? Well, as they come through turn number 2, Delmont gets the car parked smoothly, and it is all said and done. Adam Delmont moves into the lead this race overall and holds on to the pro lead still, ahead of the prime leader of Mikey Pollard, and Shane Piggott and Jamie Dory are now within 1.2 seconds of this lead battle. Albeit I think Delmont will now start to try and break away with the clear space he has on track. Meanwhile, with his off-track, Martin Tilling has dropped down to P7, albeit it is still P5 in the pro class, and will with that, the TQ Sim Sport driver, I think, will feel as though now he doesn't need any further mistakes, and it'll be a very consistent pair of finishes. And of course, if he finishes there, he'll be starting P2 on the front row for the final race of the day. As we're hearing that Michael Lees has had to come into the pit lane due to an incident involving the car. Indeed, I think the damage now started to become too much for the car to continue at its current rate of knots. But as Tilling makes his way through turn number 6, that goes a bit deep, and Ian Manners is closing as they come out of the corner. And the DCW racing driver, well, I think he'll be aware of the fact that right now he is on course for reverse grid pole, with Philbert Doolittle a bit further behind by 3.3 seconds, so no real pressure there. Well, as they make their way out on to the penultimate lap, will it be worth Manners' time trying to gain one more place for overall points, or will he just simply hold firm to P8 to the finish? Well, that's his decision, and we'll find out gradually. But meanwhile, in the battle for P3, Shane Piggott starting to just gradually open out that gap again to 8 tenths versus Jamie Dory. And I wonder if it's most likely due to the fact he's feeling a little bit of a distant toll at the back of Mikey Pollard's car, and that may just be buffed him a little bit with regards to straight line speed. As meanwhile, Martin Tilling falling down the order, he rejoins and he drops back at P10 as he comes back onto circuit at turn number 2. And with that, Martin Tilling, now the TT Sport driver, loses that opportunity to be right up there at the front of the grid for the final race of the day. And let's see him find a way quickly back past Joseph Doble and Phil McDougall. And right now, the 6R Project Black driver of Phil McDougall will find himself in a very fortunate position whereas things finish as they currently stand. He will take pole for the final race of the day, and he's going to feel very pleased with that. But as our drivers come through turns of 5 and 6, well, meanwhile, Adam Delmont still leading this race by 9/10. He makes his way onto the final lap, and as we look out of our commentary booth window, indeed look down to him on circuit with the broadcast cameras, we can see the 37 driver just leading Pollard through the opening quarters one more time, and feeling very comfortable here as he heads on around to complete the final lap. Albeit, will it work out that way in practice? We'll have to wait and see. As meanwhile, Jamie Dory taking the venture off the road, and meanwhile as he rejoins, he's going to lose out there to Michael Lees, albeit Lees is a lap down. We're hearing that Martin Tilling has had to come into the pits, and we get clarification from Martin Tilling in the YouTube chat that he's got a meatball flag and therefore damage to the car. A meatball, of course, being the black flag with the orange circle in the middle of it, and therefore having to come into the pits. Otherwise, he will be hit with a post-race infraction penalty. But meanwhile, Dory breaking his way into his turn before that, another lockup, and Mikey Doble getting much closer as we're in that Michael Lees has had an adventure off-road at turn number 4. But as our drivers come on through, and meanwhile we look to Adam Delmont as he comes through 7. Well, Pollard is there, but not close enough to try and make the move. And well, for Adam Delmont, it was all about knocking on the door on Mikey Pollard until he finally found a way through with only a couple of laps to go. But Adam Delmont comes to line, and he'll be your winner in race 2 and 3 here today at Oschersleben. He takes the overall pro win for Next Gen Racing ahead of Mikey Pollard, P2, who takes the prime win there for DCW Racing. Shane Piggott holds on to P3 to make it another run-up finish in the pro class and complete the overall podium. Jamie Dory completes the pro podium P4 for Next Gen Racing ahead of Mikey Doble, and then it will be Ian Manners P6 and runner-up in the prime class for DCW Racing ahead of Phil McDougall, who just holds off Joseph Doble to the line. Joseph Doble, of course, will take reverse grid pole for the final race of the day. Matthew Addy just missed out on the prime podium P9, and then Isaac Doble completes your top 10 ahead of Lee Holmes P11, a difficult second race for Lee Holmes. And Mark Sykes there, P12, with P6 of the prime class, the Next Gen Racing driver, with some time before our next driver, Martin Tilling, who comes to the timing line there for Tiki Simsport after that late repair work, P13 with the fast repair, and then Daniel Fritz P14 ahead of Alex Meredith, who will be your final finisher on the lead lap. But as he comes to the line, of course, we have Michael Lees finish at least one lap down, P16. The Chemical E Motorsports driver comes on through to take his checker flag. But as we do see Adam Delmont making his way into the pit lane, the Next Gen Racing driver, it was hard fought, but he found a way into the lead, and after that he did not look back, as we see there behind Shane Piggott, and Shane Piggott of course will be gunning to try and become the winner in the final race of the day. Meanwhile, Mikey Pollard has already made his way into the pit lane, and well, for Mikey Doble, it was tough at first, but he found his way up to P5 after a difficult first race of the day. But race number 2 definitely yielding the rewards with his perseverance, and the same for Ian Manners, P6, as we do see there Jamie Dory and Mikey Doble having a little bit of a coming together. And I think that will be just, of course, 2 great friends off circuit, but 2 great rivals on circuit. But as all tries to make their way into the pit lane, well, let's take a look through those race results, subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. Well, after 17 laps of racing and the second race of the day here at Motorsport Arena Ochersleben in Germany, Adam Delmont your winner by 1.1 seconds for Next Gen Racing, pro and overall winner ahead of your prime winner of Mikey Pollard. The DCW Racing driver doing everything he could to hold on to that onto that win, but in the end he had to settle for P2, with Delmont finding a way through with only a couple of laps remaining. Shane Piggott a further 1.7s back in P3. The Ace of Spades Racing driver putting in another stellar performance and continuing that run of form, and then Jamie Dory round off the pro podium there in P4 behind the final overall podium finisher for Next Gen Racing. Mikey Doble P5 battling his way up the order for Doble Sim Racing from outside the top 10, and then Ian Manners P6 their prime runner up for DCW Racing ahead of third place prime driver Phil McDougall for 6R Project Black. I mean, it was a prime podium of Pollard, Manners and McDougall, with Joseph Doble P8 for Double Sim Racing, and he will be your reverse grid pole sitter for the final race of the day. And then Matthew Addy completing the run to P9 for Next Gen Racing ahead of top 10 finisher in P10 Isaac Doble. Best of the rest there behind the double sim racing driver, ATEC Racing's Lee Holmes, and how the fortunes have turned for the other way after a great race one, a difficult start to race number 2, and wasn't able to find his way back into the top 10 come the end of it, with Mark Sykes P12 there for NXTGEN Racing ahead of Martin Tillin, the Tiki Simsport driver, and then with damage to the car, meaning he had to take a pit stop just before the race ended, and then it was Daniel Fritz P14 for Whiskey Runners Racing, ahead of the Chemical E Motorsports car of Alex Meredith, and then last but not least P16, a lap down at the finish, NXTGEN Racing's Michael Lees to make it 16 starters, 16 finishers, and 15 of them on the lead lap. But of course, that was race number 2, ladies and gentlemen, and we've got one more race to go, and we will be back in approximately another 5 to 7 minutes' time for the build-up to race number 3. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to the final race of the day, race 3 of 3 in round 5 of the Next Gen Racing Front Wheel Drive Fridays Clio Cup. And well, what a absolutely brilliant first 2 races we've had. In the fact, race number 1, it was Lee Holmes who led the way from start to finish, but behind him, the field battled on hard with Mikey Pollard bringing home the prime win. And in race number 2, it would be Mikey Pollard once again who'd bring home the prime win, albeit just deprived of the win in the overall category behind Adam Delmont, but Lee Holmes, by comparison, having a difficult race, and indeed it all fell apart. But now, as we've got one more race to go, Lee Holmes will have an opportunity to try and strike back strong, and well, of course, he'll be having to do it from outside the top 8 of the grid, so therefore he'll find himself started outside of the reversal positions for the grid, and it is going to be the ultimate challenge for him. Well, a lot of his fast rivals are just ahead of it and trying to carve their way through the field, but indeed, if anybody can find a way to cut back up to the win, it is Lee Holmes for ATEC Tech Racing. But meanwhile, other drivers have had some great racing. Shane Piggott in particular fighting hard every step of the way and battling for the pro podium and the overall podium. The Ace of Spades racing driver taking his racing up a level, and will can he potentially go one step further in this final race and come on home with the class victory? We'll have to see. As he makes way up towards turn at number 4. Well, meanwhile, Matthew Addy started to find some rhythm in race number 2, and the Next Gen Racing driver under a huge amount of pressure in race 1. Race number 2 being more about him giving pursuit, and when race 3, will it be about him now trying to hold on for what could be a potential podium in the prime class? Well, he's going to plenty of competition, but we are only 30 seconds away from going at racing at one more time here today in the German circuit. And as our drivers all get set, of course, the Doble brothers included for Doble Sim Racing, Joseph Doble, all known it's all on the line for one final time. And how will they get on? That will be the question that we await the answer to. As Martin Tillin there makes his way to the pit lane, and will meanwhile Alex Meredith still makes his way on around and has been towards the back of the field for the majority of the day. But Alex Meredith, of course, enjoying the race and getting to grips with the Clio Cup machine, and every bit of experience he takes in this round, he'll take with him to round number 6 in Australia in a week's time. But the checker flag is out, ladies and gentlemen. You know what that means. It's time for our drivers to make the way to the grid for the final time today. So as our drivers get ready to line up on the grid, of course we can't quite walk you down the grid due to technical limitations, but you can see all of our drivers now making their way into position, and it does seem as though in fact we have a full reverse grid here with Alex Meredith on pole, so that's a little bit unexpected, but I think that might be a rule change for the second half of the season. But either way, that's only going to mix things up ever more so as our drivers get set to go racing. So it does look as though it's Alex Meredith who starts on pole, and well, he is now going to have a lot of pressure on him as he charges down towards turn at number 1, and alongside him will be the TQ Simsport machine of Martin Tilling, and with that not quite beside him there, as I do believe we have Tilling's livery being loaded on 2 cars, so we do have that livery issue once again rearing its ugly head. In fact, there we go, it's Daniel Fritz alongside what is the Kevin E Motorsport car and Meredith on the front row, and there will be Tilling and also just behind him there as we continue our way down the order, I believe the car of Mark Sykes. So there's going to be a bit of pressure as we go towards the back of the field, Shane Piggott and company. But as our drivers get ready to go, it's all about the run off the line, and who is going to come away the winner? Let's find out. And it's lights out and away we go as Michael Leese then looks to get the best launch off the line down towards turn number 1. And as they head all the way through, it's Michael Leese and Paul, in fact, as they head down towards the braking zone, everyone's scrambling immediately here as Leese gets a reasonable start, but Fritz trying to come in around the outside. Onto the brakes they go through turns 1 into 2. And as they do, now it's going to be 2 wide further back with Daniel Fritz, battling with Alex Meredith, car off wide at the back. That's Jamie Dury as they make the way through turn 2. And up towards 3 they go, and as they do, well, meanwhile, now it's going to be the run into the braking zone for 3. Everybody really pushing on here, places to be gained early doors into the braking zone. You can see Martin Tillin there going all in versus Meredith. He gains 1, he gains 2, and in fact everyone goes off the road effectively. And well, goodness me, well, Michael Leese and company have all decided to drift clear, and Martin Tillin up a blaze. Meanwhile, further back, it's all about heavy braking, and we've got cars plenty off the road. In fact, there's 6 cars all parked up on the wayside there at turn number 4. It's carnage at the right-hander, and everyone gets himself back up to speed. But after all of that, it's Martin Tillin who leads. And as he makes his way out to turn number 6 and down towards 7, having to fend off Lee Holmes, and Lee Holmes here with the full reverse grid, which I think he would have thought was unexpected. Well, right now, this gives him an opportunity to make it 2 wins out of 3 today, given the fact he's already up to P2. As after 1 lap, it's Martin Tillin leads, but already the safety car is out, ladies and gentlemen. and that means they're allowed to race up to the start-finish line. But now, as soon as they come across the line, there's no more racing permitted. Everybody has to settle down, but that gives us an opportunity to take a brief breather. And goodness, we're going to need one after all that happened through turns 3 and 4. And it did look as though Mini tried to make a journey off the road, but it's Martin Tinney who holds the lead for TG Supersport ahead of Lee Holmes P2. Isaac Doble P3 ahead of Alex Meredith P4. Isaac Doble, your pro-am leader, ahead of his rival Alex Meredith. Then we have Mikey Doble P5, Mark Sykes P6, Ian Manners P7. As you see, Ian Manners a bit further back there. Jamie Dory P8, Michael Lees P9, Joseph Doble P10, and then Mikey Pollard best of the rest P11 ahead of Adam Delmont P12, ahead of Shane Piggott and Matthew Addy. That's your running order on the lead lap, all out together on circuit. But meanwhile, behind in the pit lane, we've got Daniel Fritz and Phil Badul. They're both having their cars looked at and repaired after the damage they picked up at turns 3 and 4, particularly 4 here on the braking. Well, we saw the aftermath. We didn't see what started it, but what I can tell you is with that, well, Phil Badul was already leaving the pit lane, so he'll be given an opportunity to catch up. He'll be given at least a lap, so he won't be going racing at the end of this lap. We'll be going racing at the end of lap 3 at the earliest. I suspect we may have one more lap, given the fact that Fritz's car is still being worked on. They've got a lot of problems to sort out on it. As I look out my commentary booth window, and as we see it there parked up, definitely right now, they're having to do some significant, that's the word we're looking for. They're not sincere, but they're doing a significant amount of work, and Daniel Fritz will be sincere in his gratitude to the teammates as he makes his way down. He's just going to be able to get out before the safety car, which means he will not fall back into formation. He can get up to speed and charge his way on around, but as he makes his way out the pit lane, he'll just get on by, we think. Although it's going to be close. In fact, he doesn't get by there with a slow X out of the pit lane. And Fritz here being made to fall backwards, and I believe if he's going to be given a wave round, it will only be when the field's all set. But otherwise, he makes his way up towards that turn at number 3. Well, goodness me, what open lap. Well, Phil McDougall will survive the safety car pack coming on through, but not Daniel Fritz, as they all just try and sort themselves out into an order. And I think Fritz here is waiting to be given the call, if he is going to be given one that he can come around. But if he's not allowed to, he'll be racing from a lap down, and well, that is a punishing way to end the day of racing. I can tell you that as he makes way through turn at number 4. But meanwhile, looking to the race leader here behind the safety car, being driven, of course, by our safety car driver Gareth at Williams, as they make their way through turn 5 into 6. While drivers right now all set, and indeed the Porsche Cayman at 718, making sure to set a speed which the Clios can follow comfortably but safely as our drivers make their way down. And I think Fritz now be given permission to start to cut his way through the field, as we can see that Williams being allowed to go around another lap in the safety car, and this is to let Fritz get past the safety car and go back onto the lead lap. So we will see a delay to proceed, ladies and gentlemen, but this is only out of fairness for the Australian driver, because otherwise he would be the only driver a lap down, and will of course then it'd be frustrating. He will have this lap to try and catch up to the back of the field, and I suspect the lap after he will be having to try and play catch up whilst the field goes racing. The same for Phil McDougall, so he may not be there come the end of the lap, but he'll be given as much opportunity as he can to catch up, as meanwhile and the field now comes down onto lap number 4 of 17. We are going to lose 3 laps of racing, but that will mean that the tyres will be fresher come the end of the race, and therefore our drivers can absolutely go full pelt once again, and they'll be able to take it all the way to the final checker flag. But as everybody gets themselves set, we jump aboard with Mark Sykes here, and well, Mark Sykes, of course, one of the big gainers from the reverse grid, and be able to steer clear of the danger as we ride on board with the 666 car, and right now head down and just waiting to go on the offensive, with the field already halfway around the lap. They're heading to turn number 4. We see Phil McDougall there on the circuit radar on the top right of your screen. He's going through turn number 2, so he'll be at the back of this field come the end of the lap. I think for Fritz, meanwhile, he will be about halfway around by the time they get to the start-finish line, so Fritz may end up starting the race effectively 20 to 30 seconds behind the field, but still he will be on the lead lap, and therefore he may be able to pick up some pieces, albeit as they come on through. What's the safety car doing this time? We do look to the safety car as it makes its way on down. It's going around once again, so Fritz will be given an extra opportunity here to close up, so it will cost us another lap. But again, I think this is sensible. The stewards are calling this right in the fact they are giving the opportunity for 16 cars to go racing, not 15, come the end of it. As they come down across the timeline once again, of course, Isaac Doble already itching to find his way past Lee Holmes. And notice here how Holmes is really backing up the field behind him. And meanwhile, Tilly is being allowed to have a bit of space. And I think what Lee Holmes is trying to do here, as soon as he knows the safety car will be coming in, he's going to start doing some rather aggressive acceleration and going onto the brakes and some weaving. And he wants as much breathing room to do so. In return, he doesn't want the rest of the field to be able to capitalise on that space. So he's essentially trying to say to likes of what is Isaac Doble and Alex Meredith behind, well, if you want some space to warm your car up, step back, give me a bit of space, and we can all do this together. And of course they do have to run within a defined distance of one another, as right now the field heads on around, and we can see Phil McDougall now coming up to the back of the pack. Meanwhile, Daniel Fritz making his way through the final corner, and what McDougall is effectively there. Meanwhile, we have got Fritz still half a lap off, and well, for how much longer will they be given the opportunity? As meanwhile, Tilling comes on down, and as he does, is he giving space to safety car? He is. So safety car, I think, is going to be in at the end of this lap. It's for Tilling to go racing very shortly, and we'll await the resumption. As they make the way out the final corner, it's all for Tilling to set the pace. And it's lights out and away we go once again, ladies and gentlemen, with green flag racing as Tilling charges down towards turn number 1. Safety car in, and Tilling gets a good restart there. It's a 6/10 of a second gap to Lee Holmes. He's nailed it, but meanwhile behind Alex Meredith, itching at the prospect of battling for the lead of the prime class, takes a little bit of a snipe up the inside. There's a lock-up from Lee Holmes. They come through the corner here. Manners there having to go very aggressive versus Jamie Dory to hold the position for P7, but as they exit out of turn at number 2, well, Daniel Fritz at the end will be effectively half a lap down, but he is on the lead lap, so he could pick up where others lose out. But Manners here defending to the inside versus Jamie Dory, and as they come through free, that's Meredith going overly deep. That releases Mikey Dobwood to P4, and Alex Meredith now finding himself under pressure from what is there, Mark Sykes, as meanwhile behind Mikey Pollard battling side by side with Joseph Doble. They come out 4 up towards 5 and 6 they go, all line astern here, but Joseph Doble does get ahead into P10, and well, they've got a limited amount of racing compared to what perhaps they expected, but they still got over half the race remaining here at the Oschersleben circuits. They head up towards turn number 7, into the right hander they go, and as they do, well, meanwhile Lee Holmes takes the lead of this race. He's gone for the move, coming out the inside into turn number 8, and with an off track for Martin Tilling, it was only going to go one way, and now Lee Holmes leads. Meanwhile, further back, Mark Sykes here trying to out-drag Alex Meredith down towards turn number 1. You can see that Ian Manners looking for the opportunity as well. It's going to be 2-1 between Manners and Meredith as they head towards the braking zone, and coming onto the anchors, it's Meredith on the inside, all by his lonesome. Meanwhile, the rest of the field tries to go all the way around. That's going to be very bold. Manners gets it done. Dory's still there behind, and meanwhile we can see Michael Lee staying in pursuit, as meanwhile going up the inside is Joseph Doble, and well, the door was left open, and Doble simply just blasted it open even further so as they make the way into the braking zone for turn number 3, and as they come through, left-hander Lee's there, getting his elbows back out and teaching Joseph Doble that you've got to get the door shut. I failed to do it, and now you're going to fail to do it as well. But as they come into the braking zone for 4, you see Meredith there still being made on the outside of the right-hander, and that's going to let the NXTGEN machines get past the Chemical Motorsport car, or is it? As meanwhile we've got a driver off there, that's Joseph Doble with a bit of contact, I think, with what was out of Delmont. And as they come out to turn 5 into 6, well, now we're going to have Joseph Doble defend on the inside versus Matthew Addy. 2 wide of corner exit, and Joseph Doble doesn't want to lose any more places, but Addy's going to make him lose one more in the battle for P13. Side-by-side car off there, that's Alex Meredith who rejoins, and Meredith comes spearing back onto the circuit, and well, as he does, I think there's a bit of contact with Mikey Pollard, and Pollard finds himself on the outside of turn number 8. But as they come down towards turn number 1, once again, meanwhile, Piggott still battling with Pollard, and well, these two right now are really trying to outrun one another into the opening corner. Pollard's got the toe of what is their Delmont in front, but meanwhile, as they come through, in fact, Piggott has the toe, and well, Pollard with a bit of contact there with Piggott. Piggott regains and rejoins the circuit. He regains control of the car, we should say, and as he comes out of 2 and up towards 3, meanwhile, what is there? Addy versus Joseph Doble behind, and then Meredith really now starting to give himself some space in the circuit. I think Shane Piggott at this point is going to go, I get it, and there's even more contact between them as they come through 3, and Matthew Addy comes into the back of Piggott, and well, then McDougall makes contact as well, but they all survive it somehow as they come through 4. Well, these Clios have definitely made a stern stuff as they come out to the right hand. You can see Phil McDougall there not too pleased. A little bit side-to-side contact with Matthew Addy. It's definitely getting a little bit tetchy down there between the two of them, but then again, you're always going to see this. It's the last race of the day, and tempers do flare when they make the way on around. McDougall goes a bit deep, and the CXR Project Black driver gives the space up as he just gradually comes along. I think he's picked up a slowdown penalty for that off track, but meanwhile, we see here Mikey Pollard now up to P9 versus Michael Lees, and Lees right there behind him as they charge across the timeline. One more prime place to be gained versus Mark Sykes, and that's onto the podium for the number 33 driver, and it'll be a triple podium today as a minimum after 2 wins. As they come from the left into right here at turns 1 and 2, we're now into the second half of the race. They're on lap 9 of 17. Meanwhile, Alex Meredith again going overly deep there as we say hello to him in the YouTube chat. He says, yep, I learned the track in 5 minutes and was not ready for this race. Well, right now, despite the fact he may have only spent a little bit of time learning the circuit, trying to do his utmost here, and it will be respected by the fielders on drivers that come into turn number 3. A lot of cloud being sent up there. I think somebody locked it up. I believe that was a lock up for Michael Lees in his chase of what is Mikey Pollard. But meanwhile, we can see there Meredith got a bit deep at 4. I'm not sure if it was aided or not, but meanwhile Matthew Addy looking up the inside and will be made to wait as he tries to take a peek into 5 where he wants to get this done. He wants to go hunting after Piggott. Meredith goes deep, gives the space there to Addy on the outside. Oh goodness me, and Addy there has some contact to the rear of Meredith's car. Will the two of them survive it? But Addy really now I think itching to make the move, and Meredith not on the pace of Addy as he runs wide, and Addy, oh my good lord, and the car comes loose, and for Matthew Addy it rolls twice, 3 times, and well, in the end it's upside down by the barrier. And well, if anybody has flashbacks to Gabriel Tarquini at what was, I do believe, Not Kill all those years ago, we've seen something very similar, not just once, not just twice, but 4 times in the end and on his roof. But meanwhile, Jamie Dory here making his way out to turn number 2, won't want to be on his roof, he'll want to be looking up the inside on the flat and narrow versus what is the Ian Manners for P5, and I think he'll get this done and covered off. Meanwhile, Adam Delmont battling side by side with Mark Sykes. And Sykes being made to go outside to inside into 4, and well, with that and the speed he's losing, Pollard now goes around the outside of 4. This is a hard move to make, even against drivers who are a bit compromised online. You've got to have a lot of momentum coming out of 4 into 5. And he goes around the outside there, can't shut the door initially, now into the left-hander turn at number 6, and Mikey Pollard makes it work. He's up into a podium spot, or is he, for the prime class? Sykes tries to come back here as they make the way for the right-hander, a turn at number 7, and we're hearing that Martin Tin's had another off-track at turn 7. He's lost 2 places to Mikey and Isaac Doble. He's down to P4 now, but meanwhile, we look from them to Jamie Dory, and Dory picks up another place as they come across the timeline. So Tilling struggling with the final quarter as he tries to look up the inside, but then Jamie Dory carries all the red to me, and Manners as well trying to come on through. The DCW Racing driver picking it up, and Tilling, as we see there, a message in the YouTube chat saying it doesn't just rain when it rains, it doesn't rain but it pours. And I can tell you one thing right now, the lots of places is pouring on in as they come out of 2 and in towards 3. Driver going wide there, and that's Tilling again, and we're all out of sequence at the moment, and he's got to get it back under control and control quickly, as otherwise I think he could be starting to fall outside the top 10. But as they come out of 3 and into 4, everybody now starting to try and find a bit of rhyme and reason and rhythm with it, as Mikey Pollard now trying to pick off another pro driver in the form of Tilling, and we jump aboard here with the number 73. But in fact, they're Tilling having it off track as we look back to the exterior pictures, and as they do, we thought it was going to be a drag race into turn 6 very shortly, but it wasn't in the end. Instead, Mikey Pollard coming on through, and Tilling will compromise line out of 4, and the difficulties for Tilling just continue to be compounded. First of all, tries come through 7 and up into 8. Now it's all about the road to the brake zone. Tilling into the pit lane in the end. I think he's decided that something with the car and it needs to be looked at. But Sykes, Doble, Piggott will all pick up places, and the rest of the field behind. But as they come on towards the timeline here, well, Mark Sykes under pressure with Joseph Doble as they head down towards turn number 1. Joseph Doble right there, looking up the inside now, but I think he's a bit too far back to just simply put it there. He's going to have to go for it on the brakes. And well, the one thing, of course, for the run through turns 1 into 2 is the driver on the natural racing line who will gain all the momentum, and Joseph Doble, aware of that, backs it off as they come through the right-hander and turn up towards 3, but charging in towards the next left-hander. And they run in towards the braking zone. We can see both drivers here stay together. Sykes goes a bit deep, and I think this may be letting Joseph Doble go and focusing on class position. P4 with Shane Piggott close behind, and then you do have Alex Meredith. I think Mark Sykes at this point started to focus more on what means the most to him, and that is the Pro Championship as they come out of 4 and in towards 5-6. But as they make the way to the corner, we look up to P3 driver and your Pro leader of Isaac Doble, the Doble Sim Racing driver with the number 1 door number here. We're right now in the number 1 spot in class. As he comes through the final corner, it's not too many more laps to go, and here we feel as though this could be a win on the cards here, but he does have some momentum on his side, and Ian Manners, meanwhile, trying to find a way to fend off Adam Delmont. And Adam Delmont there looking around the outside for P5. The DCW Racing driver Manners will not want to lose this. He's got eyesight at Doble. Only what is 2 seconds up the road. He'll feel as though he can close up versus Isaac Doble. But right now, to go more and more defensive. And the DCW Racing driver, well, very shortly, he's going to have Mikey Pollard also on the back of this train of 2. And well, it's going to be a train of 3 in the end. And will Pollard be able to find his way on through to try and take the run-up spot in the prime class? as they come through 3 and in towards the right-hander before they go shortly. A bit further back, Shane Piggott trying to put the move on Mark Sykes here, and well, can he find the space to do so? Sykes, of course, relented versus Joseph Doble. Meanwhile, we've had a move being made with Jamie Dory off circuit. But that's Jamie Dory rejoining the circuit, and what has gone wrong for the number 13 drive. He's made a mistake at turn number 4 and will now rejoin it a long way back from where he was at the time. He was at the moment battling for P4, and now he's fallen back to P10, and Jamie Dory's had it all go wrong. And meanwhile, Ian Manners here under pressure of Delmont. Delmont up the inside, late moving to the final corner. Manners sees it coming and gives Delmont the space, but now it's all about who got the better run off of the exit and charging down towards turn number 1. Side by side in the charge they go, and well, it's going to be neck and neck here. This is brilliant racing between the two of them. They give each other space. Manners will have the inside, they're on the outside to 2, Howard. Delmont's prided himself on this, and as they come into the left into right, Delmont's still there. Manners holds position, but this is where the tightening of the apex run means that now Manners will find himself on a compromise line, and indeed Delmont gets the move done there for P4, and Adam Delmont showing you can go 2 wide all the way through 1 and 2 and get it all said and done before you reach 3, although he looks up there to turn number 3, and well, Manners not close enough to try and come back at him, but great racing action between them. And now Mikey Pollard closed up to this, I think, thinking that there's an opportunity for him to put one over his DCW Racing teammate, and well, if he's able to do so, it's definitely going to be a championship lead of the prime class that's going to come down to a sliver of a gap if Pollard's not ahead come the run into round number 6 in a week's time. As our drivers make the way from the right into left at turns 5 and 6. Still a few more laps to go indeed. When our race lead across the timeline, I can see it on the start finish straight out my commentary booth window. We'll see Lee Holmes going on to what is 3 laps remaining, lap 15 and 17. And whilst we did lose 5 laps of racing under the safety car, what laps of racing we have had have absolutely made up for it in a majorly so fashion, as all of our drivers are still racing here, minus Phil McDougall's had that early retirement due to the damage picked up in the early portion of the race. Well, the 6-hole Project Black driver definitely at the stiff end of the battling in this final race of the day. But meanwhile, Shane Piggott is still chasing after Mark Sykes, and well, Sykes there keeping it at bay right now. The Ace of Spades racing driver in the 27, there and ever present and ever threatening, but Sykes not falling victim to it so far. As they come up towards turn number 3 here, long line they go, and Piggott looking for a little look at the inside. He can't quite find it, trying to get Sykes to go deep. Sykes does go deep there, and we're in a similar fashion to what we saw earlier on between Joseph Doble and Mark Sykes. Piggott gets it done, covers off the inside into turn number 4. Sykes looks around the outside, but Shane Piggott here will take a U-shape approach. He'll cover off the entirety of the road, and Mark Sykes falls back down the position to P9 now. Doesn't lose class position, however, holds to P4 prime, and that's where he'll want to be. Meanwhile, between the DCW racing pair of Manners and Pollard, Pollard gets the better run out of turn number 6, but can't find the way to the inside of 7. And will now Manners covering off the run on the racing line here into turn number 8. But it's going to be the body language here as they come out the corner and make the difference. And Manners there will compromise line as our camera's almost taking the rear of the Ian Manners' car. And as they make the way down towards turn number 1, will Pollard there absolutely nailing the turn 8 exit. Manners hesitated practically on throttle, and in the fact that Ian Pollard's going to get ahead, and Manners gives up the position. And what I don't think Manners wanted to do so voluntarily. I just don't think he had the run as they came into 1, but Pollard goes deep then to 2. I think just carrying too much speed, and as they come through 2 into 3, well, Manners is right behind, but Mikey Pollard now P2 in the prime class. Coming through the camera there was Isaac Doble, your prime leader in P3, of Adam Delmont between the two of them, and can Mikey Pollard make it 3 wins in a row? Well, I'll say this now, if he's able to close out that gap of 2 seconds and make the pass of both drivers before the end of this, that is going to be a stellar final lap. But something tells me that it's going to come down to mistakes in instance of the drivers in front for him to be able to be within attacking distance on the final lap, because right now Mikey Pollard is not bringing that gap down at a glacial, well, an absolutely huge rate of knots, we should say. Indeed, the progress will be glacial at this point, and well, understandable given the time and how much he's taken out the car. But as he comes out of 7 and down towards 8, meanwhile, we look from them back up to your leader, and Lee Holmes here heads onto the final lap. And well, what a topsy-turvy day it's been, with a race 1 that was all in control for him, and a race 2 that was completely out of his control. He's back in control for race 3, and meanwhile Mikey Doble there, P2, is chasing him, but they're matching one another for lap time at the moment, so it might be a second place for Mikey Doble, or be Isaac Doble here. Still trying to hold on to his first overall podium. Indeed, on his debut today, a huge achievement from the Prime driver, and he really has proven to be perhaps the driver of the day, in my opinion, given the maturity he has brought to the racing. And we're not going to see his praises too highly, because we don't want to give him the commentator's curse. Coming on through the final few quarters, Adam Delmont is doing everything in his power. Bit of contact as Isaac Doble defends hard and deep, and I think there was a bit of damage on the rear bumper to Doble's car as Delmont there coming into the back. But right now, the number 1 driver does not want to let this overall podium go. He is doing everything. It's just 3 more corners to go. But meanwhile, as he comes up towards the final 2, we look to your race leader as he comes through the final corner. And it's been a controlled race from start to finish. After he took the lead, he never looked back. And as he comes to the timeline, he makes it 2 out of 3 wins today. Lee Holmes from ATEC Racing is your overall and pro winner ahead of Mikey Doble P2. And then it will be in a drag race to the line. Who's it going to be? Is it Isaac Doble, Adam Delmont? It's Adam Delmont by a hair's whisker ahead of Isaac Doble, finishes P4 at the line. Pro and winner ahead of Mikey Pollard P5, Ian Manners P6. That's your pro and podium, the trio. Joseph Doble P7, and then Shane Piggott P8 and a Mark Sykes P9, Jamie Dory P10, and it will be Michael Lees P11. Further back by 11 seconds ahead of Alex Meredith P12. Win then shortly will be Martin Tilling, who comes on through to be the final finisher on the lead lap, with Daniel Fritz finishing P14 a lap down. Maffiati just finishing behind there 2 laps down after his roll coming through the final corner. And Phil McDougall, our sole retirement of the day. But as Lee Holmes makes his way to the pit lane, what an end to the racing here. And the 35 driver, I think will feel as though race number 2 was a scare, but he put himself right in the prime position in races 1 and 3 and picked up the key points that truly mattered. But meanwhile, for Isaac Doble, where he may not have got an overall podium in the final race, but I can tell you one thing, he is one to watch out for, because we are seeing him grow from round to round of every series he competes in. And the Doble Sim Racing driver here definitely shown a very high caliber and class of racing, and will make himself felt in the prime and overall categories. There's no question about it. But as he makes his way into the pits, also a big day to Mikey Pollard in the fact making it 2 wins and a 2nd place in the prime class, and he will be on parity with Ian Manners going into the next round. But with that, ladies and gents, it is now time for us to take a look at the race results from our final race of the day, subject to any stewards' inquiries. We can see come the end of another 17 laps of racing, 5 of which behind the safety car. Lee Holmes taking the win there for ATEC Racing by 3.8 seconds over Mikey Doble, the Doble Sim Racing driver, just not quite able to close up to Lee Holmes, but still be pleased with that 2nd place in the final race on his debut. Adam Delmont P3 for NXTGEN Racing, a further 5 seconds behind, and that completes your overall and pro podium, with Isaac Doble there just missing out, and the gap between them at the line, 16 thousandths. Was that not 16 thousandths? I can't read and do for mathematics. It in fact was at 12 thousandths, and the Doble Sim Racing driver in the number 1 car, he will feel like number 1 because he did take the win in the final race of the day in the prime class. The DCW Racing pair of Mikey Pollard and Ian Manners completing a run to P6, and with that the prime podium consisting of Doble, Pollard and Manners, and then Joseph Doble just behind by 2 tenths in P7, ahead of Shane Piggott, and then Mark Sykes and Jamie Dory rounded off your top 10 in a battling race for the NXTGEN Racing pair, but behind the Ace of Spades at Doble Sim Racing drivers. We then see P11, Alex Meredith, best of the rest for Kerry Tool E Motorsports, 11 seconds behind him being Martin Tillen for Tiki Supersport, leading the race early on. But an initial fall off the track at turn number 7 starts off a chain reaction for the Tiki Supersport driver, but still plenty to be proud of on his debut, and I'm sure he'll look back and look ahead to round number 6 in a week's time. Michael Lees, your final finisher on the lead lap for NXTGEN Racing P13, and then we had the finisher a lap down of Daniel Fritz P14 for Whiskey Runners Racing, ahead of NXTGEN Racers Maffiati, finished 2 laps down, and we had the sole retirement who didn't make it to the halfway point, and therefore I think will be classified as a did not finish of Phil McDougall for CXR Project Black. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's our 3 races today, and congratulations to all the drivers on their wonderful performances. Indeed, we've been treated to a spectacle here in Germany at the Börder circuit in Saxony-Anhalt. But indeed, the Motorsport Arena Ochersleben is now a circuit we have to say goodbye to, but not before our potential post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers, and we will be back in approximately 10 minutes time for the interviews. Don't go anywhere, you won't miss them. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and unfortunately, none of our drivers are available for post-round interviews, so we won't be hearing from any of our drivers this evening. But I'd just like to take a moment to once again say thank you and congratulations to all our drivers. Firstly, thank you for the absolutely brilliant racing from start to finish that we were treated to today at the Motorsport Arena Ochersleben Course B circuit, and congratulations to all for their finishing positions and then carrying that momentum into round number 6 in a week's time. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the Next Gen racing community in terms of the series we run and what we do both on the virtual and the real motorsporting circuit, with a good number of our members, of course, competing in virtual and also official motorsporting events, and also working as part of the Marshall teams at real-world locations around the UK. We can find out all about that and more on our official website, www.nextgenracing.co.uk. And as our website appears on screen currently, of course, it is the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. And at Next Gen Racing, we have been hosting leagues for over 16.5 years on PC and console. Indeed, we've had a whole variety of series, and we've got plenty more ongoing. Indeed, currently we have the NXTGEN, our equivalent of British Touring Car Championship, currently in its 3rd season, running on through into the second half of the season as of a week's time. We also then do have what is the Front Wheel Drive Friday series, which you've tuned into today in the Clio Cup cars. We also have the fixed Formula FF1600 series recently on the block, and our new free series, either one that you don't have to pay a single penny for if you're looking for an entry league at Next Gen Racing. And later on, coming into this summer in late June and early July, we have the return of the GT3 Championship and an endurance version of the Proto GT3 Championship as well. So we've got plenty more in store on the iRacing platform for the remainder of 2023, and we're also looking into the possibility of expanding and returning to a set of course of Competizione come the latter half of 2023. Stay tuned for that. But if you can't follow us on our website, but you want to follow us on social media instead, well, of course, you can follow us at our Facebook group, and that is at www.facebook.com/groups/NextGenRacing. And then you can find out all the details and more about our community, and indeed get up to date with the latest information. But of course, now, ladies and gentlemen, our drivers will turn their attention to round 6 of 8, where they'll make their way down under to Australia for the Oran Park circuit. Of course, the racing will take place on what will be Friday the 19th of May, but we'll bring it to you as if it were live on Wednesday the 24th of May. And indeed, after the action and the bar that has been set at the Oschersleben circuit in Germany, well, who is going to be able to take one step further in order to take the victory in Australia? We'll find out all that and more then. But until then, we have been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, have a great rest of your weekend. Remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling. If you tune into the Eurovision, do enjoy it, but most importantly, remember to stay to the tune of staying on track. Good night.